Yusho carefully scans the crowd's past names, but when he reaches the list, his own name isn't there. With a grim face, he finally swallows the loss again. This was the second time his best just wasn't enough, so he turns and slips away from the scene in silence. Ushu sinks into the dumps, telling himself he only failed because he didn't push hard enough. Lost in his thoughts, he suddenly stumbles on chaos at a convenience store. Someone's robbing it right now, and even with his spirits already crushed, he can't look away as the clerk gets threatened. As soon as he realizes it's a robbery, Yusha freezes in pure shock, watching everything unfold. The criminal clutches a knife and forces the clerk to hand over the money. She stalls for a second, and the robber's patience snaps into pure irritation, turning the moment even more explosive with one fearless, reckless decision. Usho swings a broom at the thief and smacks his armed arm. The clerk seizes the opening and swings into action, smashing the cash register over. Bam, and chaos erupts, catching the criminal off guard as he suddenly loses his grip on everything, so he's left scrambling while everyone's distracted. Yusho snaps the food tongs into the perfect strike, smashing the robber down for good, so the danger is finally gone. He stays silent in the background, watching as the clerk sizes up the young man, who may have bombed his own day but still showed up with real courage. The clerk cracks a heartfelt smile and sincerely thanks Yusho for his courage. Then in a hushed silence, he bids him goodbye. He pushes out into the night, leaving the store safe behind him, and the lone silhouette slips into view through the window as he heads back into the cold, carrying something far more valuable than approval. Dignity suddenly finds himself trapped in a blinding, empty white space. He's stuck out there with nothing but sky and rolling clouds, and confusion hits hard as he starts wondering, am I really in heaven? Or if he's dead, and that hit of loneliness in this place punches straight through the shock of everything that came before, while a whole new mystery claws its way in. Yusho gets greeted by a mysterious man who bows apologetically on the spot, and that only makes him more baffled, because he's trying to wrap his head around what's even going on. While the stranger insists that Yusho has arrived and demands an apology, the man drops the bombshell. He cast a spell on Yusho and two others, and he went as far as trying to kill them. The revelation hits Yusho like a lightning bolt, and he scrambles to wrap his head around it. Was this man really some kind of higher being? He might be divine because the guy says he's a demigod, claiming they're stuck in the border realm, a place so close to heaven it practically hums, and he explains he tried to unleash divine punishment on the world he rules, but one mistake yanked him straight into your show's world. With regret burning in his chest, he blurts out an apology, while you freeze in panic asking, so what happens to me now? The demigod leans in and vows, I'm using my power to bring Yusho back through reincarnation. But it didn't happen in the real world, only in the one he ruled, where he held the reins. He straight up admits his limits, saying he can't hand out any real power or ability, because even his divine gifts come with strict boundaries. He drops the bombshell. Yusho is about to be reincarnated in a wild fantasy world where swords rule everything. Magic crackled in the air and magical creatures lurked everywhere, and even with danger looming around every corner, he swore he'd stick to his promise. To make up for the missing power, they give Yusho a wild innate gift, an ability meant to carry him through. Shocked, Yusho fires off questions, then, against his disbelief, he finally accepts what's coming. Usha jolts awake in that same ghostly, empty world, blinking in confusion like he has no idea how he got there. He can't shake the feeling that this is just another test or a nasty trick, because deja vu crashes over him, and the uncertainty about his fate won't let up. Ushu blurts out questions about his new life, and then, boom, he finds out he'll be reborn as a regular human, except he'll have magic in his hands. Even though not every kind gets listed, the demigod lays it out clearly. There are 4 core elemental attributes: fire, water, wind, and earth, plus holy magic, so when you ask him about it, he tells you to prove it. Try it, then open your status to see exactly what I can do. Yusho fires up status open and scans his skill sheet, and the demigod's jaw drops. Even before any special power hits him, his stats are already stacked at S level, showing off raw, rare talent with a knack for multiple magics and combat skills. Time is running out, so the demigod thrusts out his hand and gives Yusho one final choice. Pick the special power he'll carry into his new life, because this rare chance won't wait. Yusho steels himself for one last plea, then declares his final wish, an ability where every ounce of effort gets rewarded. The demigod snaps in surprise, totally thrown off by how simple and how deadly sincere the request really is. The demigod squints at the request like it's way too easy, but Yusho won't budge, he insists. Even if it looks normal from the outside, his grind doesn't always pay off, so when the demigod sees how stubbornly he keeps going, he decides to bless him with an innate gift where effort always turns into real progress. That ability turbo boots your grind, your level up needs way more EXP, almost triple the usual amount, and it feels intense. And as his reward, every time Yusho levels up, his attributes jump up in perfect proportion, full balanced growth every single time. While everyone else barely creeps forward, he gets his effort doubled. With the power promising wild chances, Yusho nods eagerly, hungry to prove himself and grow past everyone else on sheer merit. And as if that wasn't enough, the demigod gifts him clairvoyance, so he can cut through the dark, read people and objects like open books and even sense the flow of magic. Curious as hell, Yusho hits him with one burning question: what's gonna happen to the demigod now? The demigod finally admits it: when Yusho gets reincarnated, his own life will be the one that ends. To deal with the other two, he'll whip up clones, each one packing only half his power. These clones won't hit nearly as hard, and they'll struggle to explain anything, because they can only hand over a tiny slice of the original power. Time's running out, so the demigod plants his hands on Yusho's shoulders and hands his clones the only chance to carry it through, since he can't. In the hush of fate, they brace themselves. One of them whispers goodbye to his very existence. Right as life is about to restart, Yusho gets reborn as a baby in a whole new world, now called Mars Bryant, and even from the first breath his power already shows. Innate talents, a stack of magic, and all of it commanding respect, even while he cries his way into this brand new start with an insane future ahead and no clue what's coming next. A whole year slips by since Yusho is reborn as Mars Bryant, and even as a kid, he's already bending clairvoyance like it's nothing. He starts using it to scan objects and read the room around him, then keeps draining his MP until it's gone, only to realize that doing it again and again boosts his max magical capacity, a brutal early win that screams how focused and smart he is. Mars is settling into a cozy new home with the Bryant family, right there with his parents, Zeke and Maria. And his brother Ike shows him love and pride every day. Ike looks up to Mars, and that bond helps the kid grow faster than anyone expects. At the same time, their parents spot Mars' spotless behavior, and they keep a sharp eye on how quickly he's improving. As Mars Bryant's saga keeps roaring forward, the metapause hits as the author jumps in to answer readers' questions, and then he makes it crystal clear. The demigod screwed up by striking the wrong world, so that apology wasn't random, it was earned. And then he dives into names, status, and chapter structure, thanking the fans for the support he never saw coming, and urging everyone to throw more suggestions his way. Mars keeps training in quiet bursts, and every time he forces himself to get dressed, he feels the magic energy drain and refill, until he finally realizes it's fueling his growth, especially after he clocks yet another power boost. He decides the moment is almost here, time to finally start testing real magic. Mars takes a deep breath and tries to cast magic for the very first time. But it crashes exactly the way he expected. He stays steady, nods to himself, and admits he has to start with the basics, because now he's done playing around. It's time to dive into real magic study. During family dinner, Mars shocks the whole table. He blurts out, "How do you use magic?" And the moment the question leaves his mouth, his parents' eyes light up, shocked, intrigued, and stunned that their kid is diving into this kind of knowledge so early. Maria demands why Mars is so obsessed with magic, and he lights up with an eager grin as he blurts that if he's got the talent, he's not waiting. He's going to jump in early and start pushing hard, even admitting he wants to learn healing magic. He pulls off the surprise for his mom because she's convinced there's no point for it anymore, and Mars's raw sincerity makes it clear. This kid has been determined from the very start. Mars blindsides his parents by bursting out that he wants to heal their injuries. Maria and Zeke can't stand the suspense, so they decide to push, right there and then, trying to see if he can really pull off divine magic this early. Seeing just how extraordinary he could be, they decide to put him to the test the very next day, and Ike can't stop watching, totally hooked. Next morning, the whole family drags Mars along to test his magic affinity, and Zeke fires off a serious rundown on why divine magic matters. It can heal diseases and seal wounds, and he makes it clear. If Mars can even get his hands on it, it'll be unimaginably rare and worth its weight in gold. To keep him safe, his parents beg him to lock that power away and never let it slip. Mars nods with a confident grin, promising them he'll do exactly that. During the test, Ike shocks Mars by teaching him to sense and master the mana pooled under his navel, that one crucial spot where real magic begins. Mars can feel the energy instantly, but getting it to flow through his body is a brutal struggle. Still, his raw talent and lightning-fast understanding at his age are undeniable. After the crystal test, everything finally kicks into high gear. The parents are absolutely stunned by the results. Both Ike and Mars pulled off the same insane move. Somehow they both managed to manipulate mono. Ike fights like he's born for it, sword, spear, and even fire magic. And then Mars steps up with mind-blowing talent, packing an absurdly high MP, plus divine and wind magic affinities that leave ordinary mages in the dust. Next morning, the whole family rushes out and buys grimoires to teach the boys how to wield magic. Zeke accompanies S on Mars while Maria trains Ike, pushing the mission into overdrive. Mars channels mana into his fingertips, snaps out the wind spell, and locks in completely. Then he finally takes his first real steps into his magical journey. Mars finally hurls his first spell, and with a lucky gust rolling in, a massive blast of wind erupts right in front of him, shocking the entire family. The sheer power and smooth control prove he's a born prodigy who's been mastering magic with frightening ease since he was little, and then he shows his magic. Mars is surrounded by his family, basking in a warm, proud celebration that feels like pure triumph. A few days later, Ike finally fires off fire magic too, and the family's talent just keeps proving itself. Everyone's blown away, and Mars's skills even light a spark under his brother. Now he's training harder than ever to stay in the race. A whole year slams by in the blink of an eye. Mars and Ike now hammer their training together in the backyard, locked in with pure focus and iron discipline. Before kicking off yet another magic practice session, they took a few deep breaths because the difference from day one was undeniable. During training, Ike snaps his blade with pinpoint control and weaves fire magic like it's nothing, while Mars calmly tames a brutal gust of wind with effortless precision, both proving they've leveled up, their stats roaring with every hour they grind, and you can see it. Their brotherhood dedication is finally paying off. Zeke and Maria roll back home, and Mars and Ike greet them with bright, warm smiles like they've been waiting all day. Zeke couldn't wait, grinning as he swore he'd brought something special, but then he shut it down and promised to reveal it later, while Maria just smiled softly at his side. With the sky full of birds overhead, that calm afternoon finally fades, and it signals they just pulled off something huge. Zeke tears open the moment and unveils a brutal magical sword as the ultimate gift. Mars gets a first look, and bam, the called fire spirit sword, magical aura hits him hard, leaving the blade to make an instant impression. Zeke hands Ike the sword as a proud gift, spotting how much he's grown. Then Ike's overwhelmed, thanking his father with tears and pure excitement. Now it's Mars' turn. Zeke shoves a beginner's holy magic grimoire into his hands and pushes him to grind his hardest every day. Mars thanks him with wild excitement and starts hammering out a healing spell, only it still stumbles at first, but he doesn't fold because that magic he's always wanted is going to be mastered. Still chasing that win, Mars dives back into training the next day, grinding through his healing spell again and again. No distractions, just sheer focus and stubborn persistence until he finally nails the magic activation, and the moment the spells flare to life in his hand, it hits like lightning. He grins through his first win with holy magic, then races straight to Ike, shouting that his healing spell actually worked. So Ike lets out a surprised, happy congrats, and Mars can't help but ask why he's not drawing his magical sword. And Ike fires back, saying their father made him drill the basics before anything else. Just as their conversation starts to heat up, a frantic voice cuts in and drags them away. Zeke and Maria stagger back from their mission, both badly hurt, but clinging to each other like they won't let go. They swore a dungeon monster ambushed them, but they kept the danger way downplayed. Still, Mars clocks it instantly. His father's injury is way worse than his mother's. Mars doesn't even wait, he charges straight up to Zeke, and with zero hesitation, slams down a healing spell full of conviction. The magic flares over the wound, sealing it shut and kicking into action. Everyone stares, stunned by the sheer grit and razor-sharp control in him. Then he whips around to Maria, eyes locked, vowing to heal her with the same relentless dedication. After he heals, Mars grins and asks, "Do my parents still feel that pain?" Zeke and Maria were shocked and teary-eyed, then the moment they realized, fully recovered at last. They press their hands over their bodies, feel the cure take hold, and then, teary-eyed, thank their son with blazing pride. Maria's eyes well up and she squeezes Mars into a tight hug, gushing with pride that his healing magic already works so well, and Ike just stands there, smiling, completely captivated by the moment. Zeke watches in silence, dead serious, eyes locked on his son's unbelievable potential. At a tense family meeting, Zeke bursts in, grilling everyone about Ike and Mars' future. He spills that him and Maria are full-on adventurers, trekking through dungeons and mowing down monsters for a living. Zeke also let slip that a local noble ordered him to wipe out specific creatures, and once Mars unleashes holy magic, Zeke's mind locks onto the huge chances lying ahead for his sons. While they're talking, Zeke leans in and asks, "So, want to team up for an adventure someday, or are you aiming for work?" He tells them the call won't be made yet, it'll wait until they're grown. With pure determination in his eyes, he promises to train them until they're strong, and both brothers light up, ready to go all in. At the family meeting, Zeke steps forward and drops the biggest news of all. Soon, Mars and Ike are about to welcome an even younger sibling into their lives. The news hits the brothers like a spark, and their faces light up with pure excitement, thrilled and waiting on the edge of their seats for their new family member. A year later, Mars and Ike hammer through brutal sword training in the backyard, trading lightning-fast moves that prove just how sharp and agile they've become. As they clash in battle, the whole world seems to pulse with their effort, proof that both of them have leveled up, pushing themselves harder and honing their fighting skills to the next degree. Mars and I crank up the duel, trading lightning-fast, perfectly aimed punches with every beat of the fight. They both move with lightning agility, showing off insane control and raw power in every step. And those hard-hitting sounds blast through the air, showing just how brutal their training is, and how fast the brothers' skills are leveling up. During their training year, Mars and Ike level up like crazy. Mars sharpens his sword skills, masters wind and holy magi, and their stats shoot through the roof. While Ike hammers his way into mastery of the sword, the spear, and fire magic. Ike's biggest win comes when he swings the magical sword, and the whole family is left stunned by what he pulls off. Lena is born, and with her, the Bryant family finally hits a huge milestone in growth. Joy floods the house as the youngest sister arrives, bringing sweet tenderness everywhere, and even as a tiny baby, she's already showing real gifts for water and earth magic. She's making it clear she'll walk the family's magical path right after them. A full year slips by, and the family comes together again to size up how far Ike and Mars have truly gone. Zeke slams the news down. Tomorrow, him and Ike are heading outside the city to hunt monsters. But he demands everyone's take on whether Mars should join them, using holy magic to lend a hand. Mars digs in his heels and declares he'll join no matter what, while Maria worries nonstop, then still backs the family's choice with her whole heart. Maria can't stop worrying about Mars and Ike heading out on that mission, especially since Mars is just 3 years old and Ike is still barely old enough. He's terrified for their safety and desperately wants her to go with them. Even so, Lena needed help badly, but with family duties pulling her strings, she can't leave home to step in. Tearing his heart in two between staying and chasing the unknown. When they ask, Mars answers without hesitation. He's desperate to join his dad and Ike on that mission. Maria understands the fear behind his choice, so she sighs and accepts her son's decision, part resignation, part quiet faith that Mars is going to make it. Maria fires off urgent instructions to Mars and Ike: stay clear of anything dangerous or packed with magic. She warns them that they're still kids, so they can't use any equipment yet. Then Mars leans in and insists they stick together for protection. Confident as ever, Zeke urges them to down the potions, just in case the magic healing doesn't cut it, and vows he'll keep them safe no matter what. All set and ready to go, Zeke, Ike, and Mars lock eyes, then sprint out with a promise, while Maria's warning hangs in the air: don't get reckless, don't push too far. The whole family watches them vanish down the road, fully knowing the road ahead won't be easy, but trusting that their bond will carry them through. Inside the guild, Mars finally spots other kids for the very first time. He spots others with skills and statuses that match his, and that comparison hits like a gut punch, forcing him to doubt his own power. Hanging around other young adventurers kicks Zeke's competitive streak into gear and makes him face himself for real. Then Zeke drops that he's got the same old monster-killing mission, and they all gear up to bolt for the road. The three of them stride down the city streets toward the dungeon entrance, where Zeke blurts, "We're here," and the second they close in, pure hype surges, because the real challenge is about to hit. The team storms out of the dungeon and heads straight for the nearby plains where the mission will go down. Mars just stares in awe at the endless open land, and Zeke cracks a confident grin, bragging that they couldn't have lucked into a better hunt. The air crackles with expectation and readiness as we dive into it. The group stumbles on goblins loose and careless on the surface, but then the stats hit, and you realize these weak little pests are trouble. Cheers die down and the real hunt is about to kick off. Goblins swarm Ike, and Zeke snaps that he better get ready to unleash the fire sword and burn them all. He unleashes the technique, and blazing fireballs spark to life in his palms. Ike, don't just watch, learn how to fight monsters the right way. Zeke unleashes the stone bullet technique, hurling stone projectiles that slam into goblins with pinpoint precision. Then he turns to Ike and demands, "Is your fire magic ready to burn the battlefield?" Showing real strategy, bold leadership, and full command. As Ike snarls, lining up his next devastating strike. Ike blasts his fire magic and roasts the goblins he just wiped out. He stops them from turning into undead, and Zeke nods like, perfect, now grab those magical remains, haul them to the guild, sell them, and cash in the rewards. Then he leans in and adds, after every battle, sweep up the magic stones too. We're using every resource we can. What? After the dust settles, Mars leans in and says next time he's blasting the goblins with magic. He tells them he's ditching basic wind magic and going straight for the wind cutter technique. Zeke nearly bursts with surprise and excitement when he hears that Mars already learned it, and it fires him up to practice harder and sharpen his control. In the thick of the fight, Mars and I sync up our attacks and cut through the goblins. Mars hurls a wind cutter attack from afar, slicing the battlefield before anyone can react. As Zeke barks orders to Ike, he demands the final enemy be cut down, driving his blade straight for the neck to land the killing blow. That strategy screams teamwork, and you watch the young adventurer level up in real time. Mars launches the killer wind cutter technique, slicing the air to spit out a raging wind blade that slams the goblins backward. Proving his magic was the real deal, and then leveling up fast, fighting right beside his family. Ike and Mars tear into goblins with sharp skill and unbreakable grit, again and again. Their father lights up and praises their work, telling them to wipe out a few more goblins before they head home, so they jump at the idea. Proving their family bonds were finally tightening into something unbreakable. Ike and Mars clash in a brutal duel, blades flashing while magic tears through the air. They unleash quick surgical strikes and wipe out the enemies before they can react. Forge their confidence and lock in as a deadly team in every fight. Ike clocks that he leveled up and spots his upgraded stats, and after the fight hits, he feels his power and skills surge like they're unlocking in real time. After they wiped out the goblins, the whole family erupts in celebration, because Ike just proved he's got what it takes. Mars determined. He bounces back in his dreams, hungry to level up fast, and you can practically feel his ambition and excitement for what's coming next. Mars barrels toward a pack of goblins, eyes locked on the next level like he's got no time to lose. He unleashes his magic at full power, unleashing a ferocious energy wave that crashes into the enemies like a storm. After the goblin battle, Mars throws down a victory cheer for his new higher level. Then his dad steps in and recognizes every bit of that progress. They point out that Mars can't possibly evolve that fast. Then they stumble on an abnormal pile of dead goblins scattered through the forest. They're stuck wondering why these encounters keep happening, and once the worry kicks in, they decide it's not normal, so they rush to report it to the guild. The group huddles up, staring at Almeria like something's gone wrong. Monsters keep popping up everywhere. Their leader steps forward and snaps the truth. With adventurers running scarce, the guild has already thrown a special mission at them: go investigate. Even with danger breathing down their necks, everyone steps forward and commits to the investigation. No backing out. Family huddles up to talk about the guild mission. Mom worries sick about monsters tougher than goblins, and her brother steps in fast, promising he'll help even if it's just goblins. Mars hesitates, worries he's not ready to match his power, and decides not to join in. He pleaded with his father to delay the mission, but the final call still hasn't landed. The family slams the brakes on the special mission and goes hunting regular monsters first, grinding experience so they can smash anything that comes next. Cobalt bursts onto the screen, flashing its core stats and basically teasing, "Get ready, you've got your next challenge coming." The group slams into a swarm of monsters that moves as one, teaming up to crush their coordination and make every fight feel brutal, right in those moments. The leader slams the point home: retreat for now, then pick off the enemies one by one. A ruthless strategy to stay one step ahead. The group leader snaps out an order: goblins, go down. And the moment they press forward with grit and nerve, they clash with ruthless focus and battle-ready strategy. Ike and Mars tear into goblins with pure skill and raw strength. Mars unleashes wind magic from a distance, hurling devastating attacks before you can even blink, while Ike goes toe-to-toe with his sword, trading steel at arm's length. Together they blitz through the enemies and drop them fast, proving that teamwork plus a killer strategy can take down anything. 1 month later, Ike and Mars punch through the roof, reaching power levels nobody saw coming. Ike soaks up his victory, feeling finally ready to sprint back home, because both of them just sharpened their skills and rebuilt their confidence for round one of whatever comes next, and then Mars and Ike wrap up the goblin battle. Torching the bodies to stop them from turning undead, they march on, and as the footsteps hit the ground, Mars wrestles with the perfect moment to finally bring up the eye of the sky. Meanwhile, Lena snoozes peacefully, while Mars grins and blurts that he can finally use the evaluation ability now. Over dinner, he grabs his phone and calls his parents to show off his brand new skill. Shocked, they blurt out, "Wait, can you really see everyone's status?" Mars proudly flashes a grin and confirms he can also see. He checked the object's status with a grin. Was told to come back and talk again about the Almeria investigation. He's freaking out about how many goblins are swarming in the region, and his father nods like, "Yeah, we should go take a look." While Mars' family cheers him on and beams with pride, they back the investigation full on, praising Mars and cheering on Ike for how much he's grown. The father drops the bombshell that he'll take the special mission tomorrow, and the kids erupt with wild, eager cheers. The next day, the family tiptoes through tearful goodbyes, worry clinging to everyone's chest, as the father heads out with Ike and Mars on their special mission. Their mother can't stop staring, praying they'll tread carefully and make it through the journey safe. While they're on the road, Ike blurts out what's over to the west, and their father tells him the truth. There's an abandoned mine out there, old as the time before Ike was even born. Suddenly, a goblin darts in by the wagon and the air screams, "Trouble-'s about to hit." As soon as the crew rolls into town, they lock eyes on something seriously wrong. A swarm of goblins poured in and panic hit the whole area, then Ike. Mars and their father stare down the scene in silence, because they can feel it, a fight is coming, and Ike and Mars tighten up and ready themselves to take on the goblins. I hurled an explosive spell into the heart of the group, blasting attention to the enemy while I set myself up for the fight. They braced themselves and marched forward as one, ready to smash right into the goblins' charge. Mike and Mars unleash brutal magic on the goblins, blasting the whole group with a fiery shower of explosions that hits enemies left and right, rips through them with heavy damage, and scrambles their heads. Ike and Mars kick off the assault with blazing magic, while their father and Marthger brace to storm in and crush the last of their enemies. After the fight, Mars powers up for real and checks how many magical stones they hauled in. He calls his father right away, eager to show him something that matters more than anything. They stumble on a huge. The door sits there all mysterious and massive. Mars can't help but stare, shouting about how huge it is, while his father scratches his head, totally baffled by what could possibly be waiting behind it. He yanked the door open. They lock eyes with a massive horde of goblins, and the air practically crackles with hostile intent. They burst in and leave everyone reeling. Then they run straight into a goblin gang led by a hobgoblin with brutal resistance and a massive stack of health points. Their father orders them to wipe out the goblins first, then they can finally go after the hobgoblin. They burst toward the goblin group, fists up and blades ready, charging straight into combat as the hobgoblin lunges in, ready to take that desperate chance before it even finishes escaping. Clenched his stance, ready to explode into battle. Mike plants his full power and rockets forward, leaping straight at the hobgoblin with everything he's got, ready to unleash a devastating strike. Ike takes a brutal hit from the hobgoblin, stumbles for a breath, then snaps back and slashes right back with his sword. Mars channels his concentrated power, unleashes a magical attack, and orders Ike to zero in on the enemy's eyes, agile, focused, and dead set on winning. Ike twists out of the hobgoblin's strike and snaps back with a brutal counter, driving for the eyes to land a critical hit and slam the fight shut. Ike dodges the hobgoblin's strike like lightning, showcasing his crazy agility and martial mastery. Ike holds his ground and swings with razor precision, then he drops the hobgoblin in one clean, deadly strike. Meanwhile, Mars stumbles on a massive magical stone, then something wildly unexpected snaps the whole group into alert mode. They realize the place is a full-on labyrinth, and if goblins are flooding out in huge numbers, that spells disaster. So their leader calls for a deep dive through the maze to trace where these goblins come from and get ready for a possible mass invasion. They step into the labyrinth and lock in on one specific area to hunt through before they head back. Keeping his eyes wide open for any danger lurking inside, then it all happens. They track down the goblin mages, deep inside the labyrinth. But their magic ends up turning the whole fight into a bigger mess, and it makes things way harder. They surge forward at breakneck speed to square up against the goblin mages. He vowed to wipe them out before they could even raise a spell. They locked in their focus, hardened their resolve, and pushed forward on the mission. They charge into the goblins with razor-sharp precision and unbreakable grit. After the fight erupts and the smoke clears, they stumble on a treasure chest packed with riches. Marthger tells Mars to sniff out danger before he opens it, and you can feel the caution in his words. Mars nods and takes the job on the spot. Mars studies the chest, then realizes what's inside isn't chosen by skill, it's decided by luck. The luckier he is, the bigger the treasure, so he decides this doesn't look like a trap at all. Marthger hands the keys to Mars and lets him crack it open. They uncover a stash of priceless magical stones, then bam, they stumble on a fire bracelet that supercharges their firepower. The whole crew erupts with excitement because this discovery means they can level up their fire attacks even harder now. They race back to the guild to hand the mission report straight to the guildmaster. The master leans in and asks if the kids are with them, then gestures for everyone to sit down so they can map out the next move. Guildmaster Zeke breaks into a proud grin, congratulating them for pulling off the mission, and demands to know who those kids are. Ike and Mars stepped forward and claimed they were Zeke's sons, hammering in that family link for everyone to feel. Alf Sergeant, an envoy, steps forward, introduces himself, and lays out the mission report like it's already on fire. He confirms the hobgoblins are here, and the goblin mages too, and then reveals how that abandoned building inside the village somehow turned into a full-blown maze. Zeke snaps a warning that the labyrinth is about to overload, and if it keeps going, this is going to turn into a disaster. His words hit like a shock, leaving everyone shaken and worried. The group tells them Zeke is going to meet Count Carmel and grill him about the labyrinth mess. They also demand that Ike and Mars, those kids, get their names written down as official adventurers. They told us the kids rode along on the investigation, and without them, they never would have clawed this far against the enemies. Zeke leans into Count Carmel and blurts that Ike can fight with fencing, spear, and fire magic, while Mars swings wind magic like it's second nature. The Count scoffs at the idea that they're just kids, but the moment they unleash terrifying magical attacks, he's totally convinced. The Count nods and signs it. He registers Ike and Mars as adventurers, giving their entry official approval. The brothers beam with joy, grateful as can be. At night, their home lights up like a promise, and this moment kicks off the next chapter of their lives. Ike and Mars are back at it, training side by side, pushing even harder every second. Mars declares he'll be stronger than his older brother, then Ike shoots back that he can't beat him, yet you can still feel the stubborn drive in both of them. Their father finally comes back, and the sons greet him with open arms and warm smiles, showing a real family vibe, full of love, backing, and support that never wavers. The whole family grabs their shiny adventurer cards, and surprise, both of them are ranked E. They're told they've been picked for a special guild mission, team up with other adventurers, and run the labyrinth like it's a life-or-death game. After they pulled it off, they were promised the title of Baron, and the moment it happened, the leader demanded everyone's take on the job. Everyone cheers that it's the right move to accept the mission because, well, that's just how it has to be. The leader clenches his resolve and steps straight into the challenge. They charge toward the labyrinth with a bunch of other adventurers, all fired up for the next wild journey. 6 months later, they come back glowing after a booming harvest, already satisfied with how far they've pushed things. Zeke soaks up the praise for his killer work, and the whole crew breaks into happy chatter as they march back to the village. They're leveling up fast, and then boom, a brand new crew forms, the Blue Fang Guild team, ranked D. He shows up to thank them for looking after Lena, and the girl beams with a bright, radiant smile, safe, happy, and basking in the adventurer's care. The Bryant family is getting ready for something big, fast. A brand new mission just dropped inside the labyrinth. They team up every single one of the 4 family members, ready to tackle the challenge side by side, proving they're united and determined for whatever hits next. The Bryant family is finally ready to bolt, together, locked in, and staring down the labyrinth's horrors with hearts full of grit as they gear up for their next wild adventure. Ike and Mars square off against a massive horde of goblins and hobgoblins deep in the labyrinth. Stepping forward with grit and unwavering resolve, ready to take on the crushing challenge waiting just ahead. Ike and Mars surge forward side by side, carving through goblins with razor-sharp precision and rock-solid resolve, also they can lock in for the decisive confrontation. Ike charges in and starts beating goblins. Lightning-fast pinpoint strikes. While Mars and the mage battle goblin mages, they scramble to stop the spellcasters from unleashing magic. Mars and Ike get slammed by a pack of goblin mages, then Mars snaps into action, dodging their spells and blasting back with his own magic. Ike surges in for brutal close combat, slashing with his sword while staying on top of every enemy and crushing their space. Mars spots the enemy's lightning-fast move. With razor-sharp agility, he darts for the creature's eyes, trying to rattle its balance and knock it off guard. He slams in a pinpoint strike, pushing for maximum damage to finally take the foe down. Ike lunges into action to shield his brother, flinging a spear with pinpoint precision and dropping the enemy on target. It screams skill and sheer determination to protect his family, while Mars keeps his eyes sharp, ready to strike or back him up the second the moment demands it. Mars lands the hit dead on, smashing the enemy down the moment the powerful attack connects. Meanwhile, Ike stares down at the giant treasure chest, tense and ready as he gears up for the mission's next stage. Ike and the crew push deeper into the labyrinth with pure grit, and Ike flashes a confident grin as he brandishes his brand new flaming spear. A massive door slams shut ahead, blocking the way and daring him with the promise of something even worse. They finally spot a safe zone deep in the labyrinth, then drop everything and get some rest. While Ike, Mars, and the others finally catch their breath, Mars R sinks into deep sleep, pulling himself back to full strength for the brutal fights that are coming. They stormed onto the labyrinth's second floor and slammed into a huge crowd of goblins and hobgoblins. Ike, Maher, Zeke, and their fearless ally lock in with fierce resolve, ready themselves for the brutal showdown waiting right around the corner. After they blast their way past a swarm of goblins, the group finally crashes into a massive door deep inside the labyrinth, and that looming gate screams, something huge is waiting on the other side, turning the tension up to max for whatever comes next. The moment they fling the gate open, a whole new threat lunges at them. A massive goblin horde barrels forward, crushed under the command of a towering, heavily armored warrior, and the air goes razor-thin as they line up for the final, decisive clash. The squad finally comes face to face with the Goblin General, a towering, ruthless powerhouse, poised to slam into battle and drive his followers forward. Ike and Mars' parents brace for battle, shout at their sons to stay sharp, and warn them that the Goblin King is likely rotting in the dungeon's very deepest depths, turning the whole place into a beginner-friendly safe haven. A fearless couple unleashes their special skills, forging an earth fortress and an ice fortress as the goblins surge closer. Earth and ice fortresses stand guard, shielding the whole crew from danger. The goblin general barks orders at his soldiers, then lifts his axe high and charges straight into battle. The earth and ice fortresses start cracking as the goblin general rallies his followers and launches a relentless attack. But the team gets hit with orders to strike right now, scrambling into position for the decisive battle. The goblin general fends off a swarm of goblins with brutal strength and non-stop endurance, and Ike and Mars can only gape, because the way they watch him tear through the fight is pure shock at how terrifyingly strong he is. The goblin general isn't just a rumor, he's real and he's out there. Bone-tired and beat up, dripping with wounds. He crumpled before the hero's victory, and his followers sprawled on the ground around him, like the whole battle just snapped shut. After the dust settles, the heroes burst into celebration for their hard-won win, and their parents lean in, asking, "So, how'd it go?" And the kids light up, shouting that it's absolutely mind-blowing, showing everyone just how tight this family really is. The result hits the ground, and the labyrinth city shakes hard. Clara cooed as she gently petted a tiny animal, until a frantic stranger barreled up, eyes wide, shouting that something awful had happened, and Clara just stood there, totally stunned. A battered man sprawls in a hospital bed, wounded and barely holding on. He begs to be healed, and the healer nods yes. Then the other patients sink back to rest as a woman steps into the room. A healer digs deep, pouring raw power into her hands until blazing light erupts as she casts a healing spell, her face locked in fierce determination to bring the patient back to life. They burst into the room and spot the Goblin General, right in the middle of his plans, before the rest of the chaos can even begin. It keeps getting reborn again and again, even after it's wiped out, fully aware it's up against something brutal. They declare this spot their training ground, where their skills get forged, sharpened, and leveled up for real. Slamming through goblins and then facing their ruthless general. He was dead set on taking them out by himself, determined to prove just how strong he really was. The fight erupts instantly as both sides launch perfectly timed assaults and snap through rapid maneuvers. 1 year later, Mars proves he's the real deal, showing off razor-sharp dexterity and raw muscle as he takes on the Goblin General in a battle that hits like thunder. Ike and Mars step into the spotlight after brutal training, and their insane stats and abilities scream how far they've pushed. They're crushing the competition with every move, and now it's time to push forward to their next mission. They charge up to the 3rd floor, staring straight ahead, facing. A hulking, looming door stands there like it leads straight into the boss's own chamber. Determined, they steel themselves, push open the door, and step in to take on whatever's waiting. Burst into the boss room and face the Goblin Lord head-on. A terrifying, towering enemy stood there like a wall, backed up by 2 hulking, heavily armored guards, and the air grew so tense you could feel the moment before the final clash. The mighty Goblin King sprawls on his throne with a smug, reckless smirk, like he's daring any challenge to come at him. With his sheer presence swallowing the room, the Goblin King steps forward and unleashes terrifying power, showing off how he bounces back fast and summons monsters at will. Shocked, the whole crew watches him raise his hands and start a summoning spell. He calls his parents, shouting a warning about the danger that's about to hit them. Armored guards rush in to shield Mars and Ike, barking that they'll take care of everything from here. The brothers clenched their resolve and geared up to smash the enemies, locked in and ready for the battle about to hit. Mars and Ike surge in fast, striking with razor-sharp precision, shattering that armor and bringing it down for good. Guards rush in, then their parents stare in stunned disbelief at their children's fierce, unbreakable determination as they fought on the battlefield. Mars and Ike square up against the Goblin King, striking together with killer teamwork, agile moves, sharp timing, and relentless attacks against the monster that tries to crush them. While their parents pace in panic, Mars and Ike steam forward, dead set on pushing straight into the Goblin King, no matter how this battle turns out. He twists and dodges every hit, then slams in bone-crushing joint strikes. This fight rips wide open and ends decisively. The brothers stand tall, brimming with courage and skill as they charge into the toughest enemy, and they keep trading blows, fighting like they mean it. He dodged at the last second and fired back with razor-accurate counters. Every clash is pure, heart-pounding chaos, with the king flexing his strength and pushing his endurance to the limit, while the brothers refuse to back down and stay locked in to finally take him down. During the chaos of the fight, Ike lowers. He tries to hold his ground for a split second, then a brutal hit lands and pain shoots through him as he gets injured. With the Goblin King still locked in a brutal battle, Mars snaps for his brother's attention, worry clawing at him as he calls out. Mars tries to heal, but the enemy won't give him a single second. Mars hardens his resolve and charges straight into the Goblin King's lair, alone. Mars charges straight at the Goblin King, and the showdown is about to explode. Devastating blows, and he kept searching for the perfect opening to launch a brutal counterattack. He braces for the decisive blow, eyes locked in, focus sharpened to a razor, erasing every ounce of his determination and strength like it never existed as the enemy charges straight at him, closing the distance at breakneck speed. Mars throws down against the Goblin King, right now, fighting him with agility sharpened and resolve ignited. Dodged a storm of strikes and snapped back with pinpoint counters, cutting through the chaos with razor-sharp focus and jaw-dropping skill in every clash. The Goblin King fires off summoning magic, and boom, he calls in reinforcements, catching Mars and his crew off guard with a brand new wave of enemies crashing onto the battlefield. Mars unleashes his magic, Tornado, and smashes forward with a brutal, storm-like hit, summoning a savage whirlwind that slams into the battlefield and catches his enemies off guard. He blasts the Goblin King with his full magical power in one devastating strike, and the Monster King crumples, shaking with fear and left completely drained. After the attack, Mars practically runs on fumes. His MP is completely gone, but he still flashes that hard, unshaken grin. Mars smashes the Goblin King, then walks away with two massive titles, Wind King, for being one of the world's top 10 windmages, and Goblin Exterminator, which cranks up his attack and defense against every goblin on the map. On top of that, he gets a special armor, Ifrit, Phantom Flame Mantle, boosting his magic power and strengthening his resistance. Mars and Ike get all the credit for wiping out the dungeon with nothing but the two of them, and when Mars finally spills the titles he earned, the whole room explodes, everyone's blown away and throwing wild congratulations his way. Clara hugs her parents goodbye and dashes off for her next dungeon adventure with. She flashed an optimistic grin and swore she wouldn't push herself too hard. Clarice throws her whole heart into healing, and she keeps her village safe and strong. Just keeps giving it time, trusting her healing power to do its magic. She's been taking care of tons of people lately. He never stopped smiling. He was always ready to jump in and help whoever came next. Clarice hears unsettling reports about kobolds showing up in the city, and it rattles her, because what if the labyrinth is finally overflowing? With a calm mind on her shoulders, she strolls through the city streets, then she stops cold at a bathhouse. She gets swallowed by worries, then finally sinks into a hot bathhouse bath to breathe for a moment. As the hot waters wrapped around him, comfort and relief flooded in, and for once he could just breathe and enjoy a quiet, refreshing moment. As Clarice tries to catch her breath, she spots the city filling up with injured people and monsters piling in. She's left fretting over that labyrinth might overflow, praying it won't spiral into something truly dangerous. After finishing her bath, Clarice felt recharged and ready to take on the world. And he couldn't believe it, he finally found her adorable pet cat. She lit up with pure joy, then leaned in close, showering him with warm, tender care. In that labyrinth dungeon, the monster count stays almost perfectly the same. But somehow their numbers keep multiplying until the whole thing bursts past the limit and spills out everywhere. This wild situation gets called labyrinth overflow. She clocks the whole situation instantly and confirms it without a doubt. The man says this phenomenon barely ever happens. Even though it's scary, it almost never happens, so for once, everyone can breathe a little easier. She thanks him for the treatment and lifts her spirits with a bright cheer, then she blurts, "SH." She takes her food and savors every bite like it's pure heaven. Count Beetle's knights gear up to wipe out monsters before the labyrinth overflows. And he stepped up to protect the residents right there with the Count himself. Beetle's knights storm up to the labyrinth gate, ready for whatever waits inside. But they're blown away and totally lost, like they can't make sense of what just happened. To find it shut tight, something totally unexpected just blew everything wide open. The knights get blindsided by a sudden deluge of goblins pouring out of the labyrinth, flooding everything in their path. Fear slammed into him and disbelief hit right after. They brace themselves for the new threat closing in on every side, and the fight erupts as the knights dig in and fight like their lives depend on it. Trying to stop that goblin, its power keeps swelling the more it advances, and yeah, the situation is already slipping into pure desperation. From the tower, everyone watched with tight hearts as the danger crept closer and closer. The moment the labyrinth starts overflowing, the whole city panics like it's seconds from disaster, forcing residents to scramble out and evacuate right now. Clarice gets rushed to head home fast, and the adults instantly feel how bad this is, like danger is breathing down their necks. The moment Clarice hears that an adventurer's been taken down, she wastes no time and commits to helping right away. He sprinted through the city, chasing every second to bring help as fast as he could. Clarice bursts into the city streets and throws down with a swarm of goblins, jumping in to help fend off the threat and protect the residents. She snaps into action with healing magic, rushing in to restore the injured back to full strength in no time, making sure they bounce back strong after the attack. The city's defenders, Clarice right in the middle, scramble to meet a fresh goblin attack, while even the kids roll up their sleeves and help out. And suddenly adults are pushed to toughen up the defenses. Fighting tooth and nail against the rising threat, the city suddenly gets blindsided when a monstrous horde crashes into the streets, triggering raw panic and breaking the hearts of residents who were desperately trying to scramble away from the sudden attack because the city won't let anyone breathe. Reaches their limit, fighting back the invading monsters until everything in them burns out, and with no choices left. The townspeople decide they're done hiding, and they march straight at the danger head-on. While Clarice fights through the chaos and heartbreak, she puts everything into healing the wounded, especially her parents. Clarice's father crashes back, badly injured, but she fires back that she's putting the adventurer's healing first. Even if it costs him his own recovery, Clarice still hesitates, torn wide open between saving her father and doing what she owes to everyone else. Bloodied chaos erupts as the wounded snap into desperate arguments, each one insisting their injuries are the worst and demanding to be treated first. In no time, the whole place explodes into chaos, everyone's yelling over everyone else, until Clarice barks at them to step back so she can take control and move first. An arrogant noble struts in, demands the first spot, and tries to bully everyone using his status, causing more tension in the air. Clarice's eyes sharpen and she braces herself, locked in to take on whatever's coming. The noble snaps into action, orders Clarice to patch up a scratch on his arm, and brushes off the pain like it's nothing at all. Clarice smiles politely and says she'll put the adventurers first, leaving his small wound for later. Then the noble sneers at her answer, and he snaps at her with an aggressive scolding, leaving her totally stunned. Everyone there is stunned by the way he reacts. Noble lunges in and threatens Clarice with a brutal strike. He seized the moment to accuse her of insulting lèse majesty. As she shields herself, shock hits her hard, because that violence came out of nowhere. Clarice's father stumbles in, badly hurt, and drops to his knees begging her forgiveness. As the noble bears his fury and charges forward, he fires off the same question. Will he step in too and wreck everything he's trying to do? Clarice panics and scrambles to heal her battered father before it's too late. But her mana finally runs dry and despair crushes her, tears spilling before she can even breathe. Rage boiling in his chest, the man screams that they're all finished, and then demands they settle the debt with their lives. The monster horde barrels in and charges straight at the residents. But the swordman doesn't budge, he stands his ground like a wall. Clenching his resolve, he steels his face, ready to fight and protect every single one of them as battle closes in. The young man rockets forward, muscles blazing, and lands a crushing strike that hurls his opponent flying backward with a thunderous hit. Everyone's stunned as the tension spikes and the brawl goes full throttle. Then the young man, locked in and fearless, charges straight into the next challenge. With a steady, unshakable stare, he braces for whatever hits next, and the sheer force of his will practically crackles in the air. Terrified, the whole population crowds the streets and watches the city crumble to dust. Claris and Mars push through the grind without stopping. To heal the wounded, they throw themselves into the work with zero pause. To ease the suffering of everyone caught in the chaos, he showed real courage and steady compassion, even when everything fell apart. Mars finally snaps into action, pushes all the talk aside, and locks in on fighting goblins. Answers will have to wait. While the others finally crash and catch their breath, he stands his ground, showing pure determination and pulling everyone forward, ready to charge headfirst into whatever comes next. The whole city's watching, jaw-dropped, hearts pounding with pure awe. Claris stared at the person in front of her and realized just how truly great they were. Mars tore through every last goblin by himself, ripping them apart street by street until the road was littered with their bodies. The crowd erupts in cheers, showering Mars with gratitude as they celebrate his victory like crazy. Then he spots Count Beetle lurking there and his stomach drops because this noble problem is coming straight for him, and it's something he can't ignore. Authorities rush in to get the wounded medical help, starting with the ones in the worst condition first. Count Beetle demanded priority care, claiming an unknown attacker struck him while everyone else obeys the medics and stays put, waiting for instructions. Count Beetle gripes that he isn't being treated like he matters, blaming his noble rank until Baron Dame steps in, shuts him down with a hard reprimand, and the Count snaps the blame onto a truly despicable person. His desperation and frustration poured out of him, raw and unstoppable. Claris beams and thanks Mars for saving her life, and the moment she does, she blows his mind. Turns out she can speak Japanese. Mars was hit with the shock of a lifetime. Claris wasn't just back, she had truly reincarnated. Relief crashed over him and they locked in a heartfelt embrace. He finally got to reunite after way too long, and pure relief hit him like a wave. Mars and Claris finally stepped in and introduced themselves like, "All right, we're the ones you need to know." Mars tells everyone he's picking up the local language so he can connect better, then proudly introduces his wife, Elena, until a stranger suddenly barges in, asking for their attention and wipes the room with shock. In the middle of a family chat, Mars drops a bombshell. He says he came straight from the Balkus Kingdom. Everyone in Grand Zom, this maze city in eastern Zakam Kingdom, suddenly goes wide-eyed because they never saw it coming. He tells them he and his older brother, Ike, were exploring a dungeon, just the two of them. While Mars and Ike scour the room, they spot a wall packed with magic. Then the second Mars touches it, his hand gets yanked hard like something inside is pulling him in. He decides to dig even deeper, and he hands Ike a locator crystal. And tell him if anything goes wrong, you better go report it to your father. Mars gets fully swallowed by magic and yanked into a whole new place beyond reality. Mars stumbles on the truth. Zakim and Balkis are at war, so the stakes skyrocket fast given the situation. Claris's family pulls him in and invites him to stay with them for a while. Milling Mars snaps up the hospitality offer, then shows real gratitude and respect right away. "I can't wait to finally say Mars out loud and make it real." Claris demanded a word with him. With her dad's nod in hand, she yanks him by the wrist and drags him straight into her room, leaving everyone downstairs in the living room staring like, "Wait, what just happened?" In the room, Claris and Mars sit face to face, and he demands the details, what happened right after lightning slammed into her. As she lines in, hanging on every word, Mars starts spilling every single thing that's happened since then, and flash after flash of their past hits, every death, every reincarnation, until it all screams the same truth. They kept sharing memories, and fate dragged them back together. Claris realizes the thief who wronged her has been reincarnated into this world too, so she decides she won't risk speaking Japanese out in public. Suddenly, as they stroll side by side, they keep trading uneasy looks, and they spot soldiers creeping nearby. Mars keeps his eyes locked and verifies it. Then the goblins pop back up again. Mars snaps his plans shut and bolts out the door right away, to stop the fresh goblin threat from tearing everything apart. Claris goes wide-eyed at his choice and demands, "Are you really trying to help people from the enemy country?" Mars slams it down. Borders don't decide the worth of a life, people are people. Claris stands there in silence, eyes shining as he vows, straight from the heart, that he'll protect them to the very end. No matter where she came from, Claris squeezes Mars in a tight hug and pours out heartfelt thanks. When he heard goblins were back to wreck the place, his blood went ice cold. Mars doesn't hesitate for a second, sword already in his hand, eyes set with grit, and he declares, "I'm going to fight too." He finally admits he can't keep clinging to Mars anymore. He's terrified his real origins will get exposed. Mars smiles calmly and tells him he's already got everything ready. With pure determination burning in his chest, he rockets through the city streets, heading straight for the next confrontation. Mars sprinted forward, sword clutched tight, eyes locked on his goal, and barrels straight into the group of knights under Count Beetle's command. He asks to join their fight, and right away the smug Baron recognizes him and erupts in rage, swearing he'll punish him for what he did before. The Count snaps at Mars to step back, seething over the accusation that he stole the sword. The night falls and boom, Mars is the one who wipes out every last goblin all by himself. Stunned, the Count rethinks everything and demands to know if he can trust Mars. Then Mars vows to crush the enemy for good, winning the Count's approval to fight right alongside him. Captain Blair, under crushing pressure, clenches her jaw as her knights get cut down and the enemy surges closer and closer. She knows she's hit her limit, and for a moment she hesitates, refusing to back down. Because that would shove the injured and the city's people into the blast zone, tension keeps spiking as she wrestles with a choice she can't afford to get wrong. Yet even as defeat looms, Captain Blair digs in and refuses to back down. With a steady hand and a resigned heart, she grips her sword and steps into place as a living shield, vowing to protect the civilians and the wounded. The threat surges up like a nightmare in front of her, but she doesn't flinch. She charges straight into the danger, ready to fight for every last second. The creature hoists its ragtag weapon and smashes down with brutal force, cracking the captain like a warning shot, so hard it flings her body away, while the troops gape in shock, frozen and helpless against the sheer gap in power, and suddenly it's clear this threat is way worse than anyone expected. The young warrior steps into the scene with total confidence, as if he owns the battlefield, straight into it. He wipes out the final enemy, and the whole showdown crumbles to dust. Relief hit the soldiers the moment they saw him, right there in front of them, the legendary Sword Saint. He swears that every last goblin is finally wiped out. And he urges the others to come back, certain the danger has finally slipped away. Then victory sparks fresh hope in the bruised, battered, and worn out. After the battle ends, the young man is blasted by applause as soldiers roar his victory to the skies. The commander fires off his gratitude and declares that Grenzum City was saved because of him. Then he shrugs and says rewards and future plans can be handled later. The warrior smiles and nods, ready to strike. At the Adventurers Guild, the guildmaster personally steps up and thanks the young man for risking everything to save the city. The commander demands his name and he strikes back with a bold Mars. Then Mars steps forward with confidence, asks for the floor, and lines up a major question like it's about to change everything. Mars storms up to the guildmaster and demands to know exactly how to stop the labyrinth from spilling over. The master tells him clear the labyrinth and the problem disappears, but war has drained the kingdom dry. There are any soldiers left to use. So yeah, there's no clue when the next clear sky will come, and Mars finally feels the full weight of how bad and how urgent this is. Fueled by pure resolve, Mars declares he'll stop the overflow, and he'll clear the labyrinth by himself. Instantly everyone panics, Guildmaster included, scrambling to talk him out of it, because even veteran adventurer crews couldn't make it through. The air tightens as his brave, or wildly reckless, choice hangs in the balance. Clarice storms in mid-conversation, burning with determination. And then she shocks everyone. She declares she'll go with Mars. Her sudden declaration shocks the whole room, and the Guildmaster is left staring in pure astonishment. Clarice's unshakable expression screams that no fear is going to stop her from charging into danger by Mars's side, and still, the Guildmaster scrambles to block her from joining him, insisting the mission is far too deadly. She shoots back unshaken, saying the danger of the labyrinth spilling over is worse than anyone admits, and Mars backs her instantly, declaring that their odds of winning climb the moment Clarice is at his side. Cornered by the weight of his conviction, he digs in and pushes again, let her go, while Mars and Clarissa refuse to back down. Their superiors nod and lock in support for the mission. When they press him for the reward, Mars smirks and hits them with an unexpected question, asking for something instead. To lock the Lampard family's safety in place, he laid it all out. His top priority was always the people he loved. Clarice looks shaken by the gesture, and the commander steps in himself, personally promising protection for the Lampard family after Mars makes his request. After laying out the clash with the noble, the two youths earn instant respect for their guts. Mars gets officially registered as an adventurer, and their superiors can't help but praise them for their bravery. Clarice's parents nod with total confidence, fully backing her choice to head out with Mars. As Mars gets ready to depart, he can't stop thinking about the weight of one job, protecting Clarice no matter what. He pushes to fortify the city and snaps into a mission to make her stronger. He vows that one day she'll handle everything on her own, backed by a quiet elder who lends his support and hands him the task. The very next day, Mars and Claris gear up to begin training, ready to forge her strength for what's waiting in that labyrinth. Mars decides to dig into her stats with the special skill Tingon, and with both of them fired up and ready to go, they step into a challenge that's about to make them stronger. Mars studies Claris up close and realizes she's born for barrier magic, so she's stunned when Claris admits she has no clue how to use it. Still, Mars doesn't let her freeze. She pushes her to start from the basics and promises to train her with every skill they already have. During training, Claris lets it slip that she's not just a barrier mage. She can also wield wind magic and even holy magic. Mars' eyes light up with pure awe and he leans in to ask, "What's the quickest way to level up?" She thinks it's all about working harder, but then he drops a bomb. There's a different answer that's the real key. Claris squares up against a goblin for her first real fight. Stunned by how heavy the sword feels, she can't help wondering if she's really got what it takes to beat an enemy. Then Mars keeps his eyes on her, steadying her and pushing her to stay locked in. Claris gets smashed by a goblin right in training. She crashes hard to the ground, bruised, shaken to the core. Mars strides in looking worried, but she snaps back that she's totally fine. With things spiraling, he snaps and thinks about quitting, convinced he can clear the labyrinth by himself, while Claris stays stone-cold silent, frustration written all over her face. Claris rants to Mars, spilling every last ounce of fury over how she froze when her father got hurt by the noble, and she swears she won't feel powerless again. She declares, eyes blazing, that she'll grow strong enough to shield herself and her family. No excuses, just sheer conviction. She begs for one more shot at training, and Mars grins, accepting without hesitation and pushing them to get stronger side by side. After Mars pumps her up, Claris squares off against another goblin like she owns the place. She shifts her stance, grips the sword tight, and plans to turn every ounce of its weight into an advantage. The goblin surges forward fast, but she won't retreat this time. Eyes locked, mind steady, and every breath says she's got this as she waits for the perfect moment to strike over and over. She digs deep, hones every ounce of focus, and at the perfect second slams a pinpoint strike into the goblin right in front of her. FT. With fierce eyes and a stance that screams determination, she pushes her progress forward, right in front of Mars, who watches proudly and praises every bit of her performance. While Claris stares at the fallen enemy, stunned by the sheer weight of her first real win, she's already won the fight after taking down the goblin. Therese is overwhelmed with relief, tears spilling as she smiles, and then that genuine laughter bursts out like she just crushed her fear. Right next to Mars, she takes her very first step. Determined to get stronger, Claris trained day after day until her sword finally slipped from her grip. Then she kept pushing, drilling her moves until her combat skills sharpened to a razor edge. While she tore through battles, she hauled in fresh magical gear that powered her up and sharpened her agility. Every fight proved it, because she kept leveling higher and higher. As he stormed through the city streets, Mars and Claris huddle up, freaked out by the weird swarm of unfamiliar faces, and Mars blurts out why outsiders have been flooding the local clinic, which totally explains the strange commotion they noticed lately. Suddenly something slams into Mars' focus, and he blurts out with a startled look, cutting the conversation dead. Mars gets this eerie gut pull, like someone's staring right through him, and when Claris clocks his hesitation, he snaps it into a secret and hides it. To break the tension, she flashes a bright smile and pitches a meat dinner to recharge, and he nods along, and the two of them stroll on together, grinning like everything's okay. A cloaked stranger keeps their eyes locked on them from the shadows, watching every move with a chilling, sharp focus. Claris squares up against a terrifying goblin general, and with zero fear she stares him down. Then the screen flashes her stats. Level 20, monstrous physical power, multiple magics and advanced skills, proving she can finally take on a high-ranking enemy by herself. Claris kicks off the fight with the goblin general, staying just out of reach and snapping into those practiced tactics. Then she channels her focus, draws a glowing line in the dirt, and traps him in a blinding light snare. As the enemy closes in fast, she knocks an arrow, draws her magic bow tight, and fires with surgical precision, hunting the creature's eyes so it can't see, and seizing the upper hand in the blink of an eye. Claris snaps her plan into place with terrifying precision, right after she blinds the goblin general. She keeps landing non-stop shots on his legs and arms, jerking his balance apart. Then he staggers, confused, while she stays ice calm and peppers him from range, wearing him down inch by inch. When the moment finally cracks, she lines up the final strike, proving with every hit that she's fearless and relentless. Claris ends it for real. She fires a perfectly aimed magic arrow, straight into the goblin general, and he crumples down defeated. Stunned but relieved, she stands there in silence until a satisfied smile finally blooms, then she steps up with full conviction, claiming her win. Clarice bursts into wild cheers after beating the Goblin General, jumping and shouting like she just conquered the world, while Mars gives her a proud, approving smile, fully sure she's finally ready. Grateful Clarice grabs his hand and thanks him for every bit of support and training they shared, and right there they agree to catch their breath, then come back after this massive progress. After grinding through brutal training and non-stop fights, Clarice finally sinks into a hard-earned rest, then digs into her meal like she's celebrating victory. She digs in delighted by every bite, while Mars grins and hammers home that eating right matters, after all that hard work no less. The whole moment feels warm, easy, and packed with good-natured camaraderie. While Mars and Clarice dig into a peaceful meal beneath the open sky, he keeps it quiet, but inside he knows their calm won't last, because tomorrow they have to win their way through the labyrinth. Clarice clocks the distant look on his face and demands what's wrong, while Mars waves it off with a laid-back joke, trying to keep things light even as the tension starts to creep closer. Right on the day the labyrinth mission was set to begin. Mars feels a weird gaze on them and blurts it out to Count Beetle, who nods and says he's sensed it for ages, but today it's hitting harder than ever. Even with the distrust hanging in the air, he swears to Mars that he's covered every threat, urging the young adventurer to lock in on the real mission. Mars nods, but he keeps his guard up because deep down he knows something, off. The moment the labyrinth mission kicks off, the truth hits like a lightning strike. Led by Count Beetle, they hacked through enemy creatures, carving out a path, until the battle with the goblins finally went off the rails. As the night pushes as far as it can go, Beetle finally calls it, this is the escort limit. After this point, Mars and Clarice have to go solo, and Mars nods with confidence, stepping up and taking charge of the next mission stage. Mars and Clarice push deeper into the labyrinth's shadows, with a night guard escorting them through the dark. After he fought off wave after wave of enemies, they slam into this towering door, the boss room, and Mars fires back that he'll take point, telling everyone to leave the fight to him. Clarice nods with fearless confidence and gets ready for whatever hits next. Right before the final showdown kicks off, Mars and Clarice stand in front of that massive door, ready to face the real challenge. The Goblin King steps into the scene, brutal strength, terrifying aura, and absurdly high stats, all screaming that this is a nightmare-level fight. Mars grips his sword with nerves of steel and charges straight at the creature without a second thought. Clarice stays right on his heels, locked in and determined. The showdown with the labyrinth boss is moments away. The Goblin King looms colossal and merciless, way beyond every enemy you've seen so far, and his monstrous strength and terrifying presence threaten to crush you before the fight even begins. Clarice froze for a split second, realizing this goblin was nothing like the others. Mars stood solid beside her, sword up and ready, locking in on the threat with full seriousness, because this is where the real fight starts, and this enemy won't stop until it tests every ounce of their strength and courage. Mars unleashes a devastating magic blast, summoning a brutal tornado that swallows the battlefield whole, and Clarice can only stare, stunned, as the roaring threat cuts off before it even reaches them. Victory is theirs, the labyrinth's been crushed. With relief burning in their chests, the two gear up to head back, knowing they just survived another death trap side by side, while Mars and Clarice celebrate their win over the maze. The new scene rips open the truth. This threat is still out there, clawing at the shadows, and a vile, manipulative noble quietly toasts his victory, sure his dark plan will crush everyone. But his joy gets slashed in half when an official storms in and shouts that his downfall is coming, right now. Suddenly everything clicks. This isn't just strategy, it's a brutal political and moral fight. And while Mars and the allies chase the maze-like mission, a brand new enemy creeps out of the shadows. An ambitious man pours his fortune into 200 mercenaries, all set to seize the city, crushing Count Beetle's knights, seizing command and sparking a full coup. So confident he's about to win, he's already moving toward victory. He crowned himself the city's next ruler, laughing like he'd already won as troops marched straight toward rebellion. The noble conspirator's jaw drops when he realizes his mercenaries have slipped out of his grasp. He just stands there, staring in stunned disbelief. Count Beetle looms over him like a storm cloud, and the guards at the door make it clear the coup has already been crushed. Now that heavy, tense silence hangs in the air, you can feel it. The traitor is seconds away from paying for everything. Mars and Clarice come back from the labyrinth mission, and the guards greet them with pure, non-stop excitement. Their mission success gets officially stamped, and both of them are praised for pulling off that incredible feat, so a soldier leaps ahead like, now what? Nades them to the Count, who is waiting in his mansion. Clarice struts beside Mars as they finally arrive at Count Beetle's mansion. Mars and Clarice are welcomed with pure relief by the Count, who beams at their safe return. Then they step into the main hall and everything flips. Guards snap to attention, the air turns tense, and Mars freezes, shocked, and blurts out, "What's going on?"
What?
Mars and Claris locked eyes on the labyrinth, and the Count spilled the truth. Damas tried to spark a coup, but good news, it wasn't a real coup. It was even worse. They kept a hawkeye on his every move as he hired mercenaries and stuffed his stash with weapons and potions. Then the early surveillance paid off, and they caught him before this mess could explode. Damas Barker, the mastermind behind the coup, gets publicly condemned, his baronial family's titles ripped away as they're dragged into chains, and before he can breathe, authorities seize Damas and slam the door on his failed scheme. Mars and Claris get a full-on official thank you for wiping out the labyrinth, praised for their raw bravery and relentless effort. They're crowned national heroes right out the gate, standing tall with unwavering eyes and calm, proud smiles that scream, "We did it." Gray Lampert is hailed as a baron for his contribution, and just when the honor lands, a huge decision comes crashing back into his life. He vows to talk it over with his family. Meanwhile, Mars gets invited to crash the night at the mansion, and he accepts the offer with a bright, excited smile. As a grand banquet roared in his name, celebrating him like a king. Mars digs into the food, and right then Count Beetle blurts out an apology for secretly watching him. He insists it was only a precaution tied to the Dumas case. Mars nods like, "It's fine." But the second the meal ends, the vibe turns heavy as the Count shifts gears and finally says he's going to tackle the real problem. At dinner, Count Beetle drops a bombshell. He already knows who Mars really is. Mars Bryant, the hotshot from the Bulka's kingdom. Mars snaps to attention when the danger is uncovered, but the Count quickly reassures him he's no threat. The Count blurts out that it all started when they tried to register Mars as an adventurer, because the name Mars was already sitting in Valk's kingdom system. Then Mars steps in, tells his whole story, and admits the brutal truth. He can't go home since the teleportation won't let him. Count Beetle steps in and promises to set up Mars's return to Balka's kingdom, and the moment Mars hears it, surprise and gratitude hit him so hard he thanks him on the spot. The County tells him the preparations will take about a week, and before that, he'll send a letter to promise Mars stays safe. As night settles, the scene lingers on the mansion, lights glowing ahead, like a countdown ticking down the next step of the journey, right on the eve of their farewell. Mars gets a warm, heartfelt thank you from the Lampard family and the soldiers, and it's crystal clear why his courage just saved them all, even before Clarissa's sincere words land in Mars. Mars wears an emotional smile, and in that quiet beat, everything turns into a silent goodbye, brimming with gratitude and pure affection. With tears in her eyes, Larissa embraces her parents and thanks them for everything, then shocks the whole room by announcing she's leaving. With a trembling, determined smile and tears brimming in her eyes, she marches straight into Mars, leaving him stunned by the wild curveball of her unexpected choice. Clinging to her own courage, Claris declares she wants to travel with Mars. While her parents sob through pride, she wipes the tears away, shouts her goodbye, and promises she'll come back stronger. With a cocky little smile, she steps into her next chapter, and Mars and Claris ride out side by side into the unknown. With vows of care and blazing hope in their hearts, they grin through teary goodbyes, then climb into the carriage, ready to charge straight into whatever's waiting out there. Mars and Claris's trip rolls along smooth as silk, laughing, talking, and eating together like best friends, until they finally step into a certain town where a calm, peaceful vibe hangs in the air. Then a stop at the town inn hits, and everything is about to flip. Mars hears a frantic merchant begging for an immediate, high-stakes mission. A slave bolted into the forbidden forest, and the man immediately throws himself at his mercy, begging for help. Mars leans in, eyes locked on everything as the mood flips the moment that urgent request hits. The merchant lets it slip the runaway slave is actually an elven child, and when the desperate man hears it, he jacks the reward up to 100 gold coins, a wild, outrageous fortune that shocks everyone in the room. Tension snaps tighter between the adventurers, and Mars calmly asks Claris if they're ready to bolt, because they both know this mission is just the cover story, and something bigger is waiting right behind it. The merchant won't back down, he's demanding the slave back, even if it means charging into the forbidden forest where rank B squads vanish. One brave soul tries to argue that life matters more than money, but Mars shuts him down hard, steady, and without the slightest hesitation. He shut it down, then told the merchant to quit trying to buy the slave. During the carriage ride, Claris leaned in and grilled Mars, "Have you ever seen an elf?" And they both admitted they've never laid eyes on one. Curious as hell, she blurts out, "Are we gonna pass by the forbidden forest?" Mars scans the map, confirms their route, and instantly snaps into alert mode when something totally unexpected shows up ahead. On the road, Mars starts to doubt everything. He stares at the forbidden forest and wrestles with his own decision, thinking they should have lined up a safer route before committing. Suddenly, something up ahead snaps his attention like a warning bell. Then he spots someone sprinting down the road, and that figure instantly hooks his full attention. A young elf girl sprints down the road with pure desperation. Chased by a towering black snake, the creature's size shocks everyone, signaling a threat no one has ever faced before, throwing the girl into mortal peril as he sensed danger closing in. Mars leaps off the carriage and slams into position, facing a giant snake that's barreling toward them at breakneck speed, while Claris steps up fast, determined to guard the runaway elf girl. Duel moves in fast, laser-precise, and cuts down the threat before it can even blink. Harris battles that massive snake with razor-sharp skill, turning every strike into pure control, landing razor-precise strikes while dodging each brutal, violent strike the creature threw at him. Even with that brutal size disadvantage hanging over him, he stays icy calm, grinding forward with pure determination because every clash is brutal, demanding lightning agility and unshakable strength with every single move. Mars locks eyes with the serpent and realizes, nope, this thing is stronger than every enemy he's faced, even the Goblin King. His usual attacks bounce right off, and the worst part, it's still venomous. So he fires up his special skill, scans the monster's status, and grimly decides he can't win with anything less than a way bigger, brutal technique. Clarice races in to back them up against the monstrous serpent, and the moment it turns, everything hangs on what comes next. Spit's venom demands everyone tread carefully, so Clarice lunges in with her blade, and the boy shoots back that he needs a moment to finish what he started, standing his ground like he's determined not to budge. Trusting she can keep the creature at bay for just a few more heartbeats, right as the serpent coils to strike the boy clenches his fists and blasts a terrifying wave of power, firing up fiery magic right in his hands. The creature rockets forward at breakneck speed, and it slams into Clarice's life so fast she doesn't even get a chance to react, like the danger was already breathing down her neck. The boy digs in his heels, insisting he just needs one more moment, while Clara screams through the panic as she watches the danger closing in. But he refuses to back off. He pushes on to finish the spell. A blinding explosion slams the serpent, rips through part of its body, and stops it dead in its tracks, and the boy can barely believe what he just witnessed. Then he snaps into a determined stance, energy blazing in both hands, one twisting like a vortex, the other burning bright, and right as the spell finishes charging, he braces to unleash his final attack. He unleashes his magic at full blast, then a raging spiral of fire rips into the serpent, swallowing it in a roaring firestorm while he plants his feet and refuses to back down, ready to crush this threat for good. After that brutal battle, the boy blurts out praise for Clarice and her defensive magic, because it worked, and you could see his awe hit instantly. She admits she was desperate, but once it worked, joy hit her like a wave, and they all agreed that barrier spell was the one thing that kept them alive. Then the boy blurts out about the elf child, and Clarison reassures him. She safely got her to the carriage. Inside the carriage, the elf child curls into a tight ball, shaking with fear that the merchant will claim her again. Then someone asks about her condition. She panics, sobbing and screaming, begging him not to take her back, eyes locked on him with a serious look, while the boy reassures her, promising they won't hand her over to the merchant. When she hears the merchant won't get her back, the elf kid is still stunned, and she blurts, "Is that really true?" After a firm, comforting reply, her emotions finally crash through. She bolts forward and leaps into Clarice's arms, sobbing with pure relief, while Clarice holds her close, calm as ever. While the boy sits there, calm as a still lake, watching everything unfold with a peaceful look. The elf child finally spills the truth about what happened. She was tricked by people. He swore he'd take her to her mother, then snatched her up, sold her off, and left her drowning in brutal, painful memories. She blurts out that she needs to reunite with her mother, like, right now. Clarice pulls her into a tight hug, and the boy wastes no time, immediately nodding and promising to help her get back to her family. The elf child trembles with emotion and floods them with tears, thanking them over and over for saving her. Then Clarice and the boy pull her close, warm and steady, and promise they'll help her track down her mother. Moved by his kindness, she blurts out heartfelt thanks, and you can practically feel the weight lift, relief and hope pouring out of her. Once the dust settled, Mars and Clarice finally stepped up and introduced themselves to Misha together like a real team. With one shared purpose, the three of them set off again, chasing their next mission. Find the young elf's mother and keep going with a purpose that suddenly means everything. Right before they push onward, Misha throws out one wild idea. Everyone hits the bath first. Mars nods in agreement, and with earth magic blazing, they forge a structure right there. Then everyone scrambles to clean up and refill their energy after those brutal events. Mars finishes the bath setup by blasting it into existence with magic. First, he summons water to fill the Earth-made structure, then he ignites fire magic to heat it up fast. He makes sure everyone can bathe in comfort, and once everything's set, Mars bursts out that the improvised bath is finally done. Clarissa and Misha stare in awe, stunned by how it all turned out, and the rest of the crew finally lets out a breath. Now they can kick back and clean up after the chaos. Fresh out of the bath, Misha slips into the clothes Clarice lent her, just a bit roomy, but they fit her perfectly, and seeing herself dressed up makes her light up with joy as she blurts out thanks with a happy grin. Then the whole group wastes no time and heads out before nightfall, kicking off the next leg of the quest to reunite Misha with her mom. The crew rolls into a brand new town and the whole place feels off, like something dangerous is lurking in the air. The Count of Beetle's nightmare, fully packed with sketchy figures and clearly not for kids, sets the scene for real trouble because something way worse is coming for them. While they roam the town, Mars and the others weave through the crowds, dodging between friendly residents and busy merchants. A sketchy vendor rolls up to Mars, shoves a sword at him, and tries to lure him in with a price so wildly inflated it's almost insulting. Mars clocks the scam on the spot and shuts it down cold, not a single word of the offer sticking, yet the vendor keeps pushing, spitting out lies and trying to trap him with fake promises. Even with the pressure cranked up, Mars stays polite and flat out refuses, insisting he's fine and he's got no money, then just turns and walks away, snapping the other guy's patience for good while he fumbles behind him, still trying to talk him into it with that sly, lingering smile. Mars heads to the local counter to grab a mission and ask where to stay, but the clerk crushes his hopes. No missions are available right now. Then the attendant gestures to an inn right across the street. Mars nods back with courtesy, and he charges toward the marked spot, then night rolls in. Mars suddenly snaps to it, something tracking him. Then a call cuts through the air and he whips around to face it. He tracked down that shady crew again, including the lying vendor who tried to screw him over earlier. One of the member states is hunting for him, and you can feel the danger ramping up fast. Then the vendor snaps into an aggressive rant, yelling at Mars not to blow this chance, even as he refuses without backing down. Mars is boxed in by the man's accomplices. Seconds later, the bandits slam into him and try to drag him into custody. The moment turns into a full-blown brawl, and Mars doesn't freeze. He snaps into action, muscles and skill ripping him loose as he flings one of them airborne. The brawl explodes into chaos, and a bandit swings a sword at him, but Mars slips the blade with razor-precise dodges, and his stance instantly shifts into something far more dangerous. Now he's primed to strike back for real, and Mars stays locked in a battle stance after mowing down a few enemies. The remaining men start whispering about auctioning him off, and the cruel truth hits. My confusion spikes as I stay sharp. Mars stares at the word auction, baffled, then it clicks, and he realizes he's already in it. Something even darker than Mark could have ever imagined. Then the news hit. The bandits didn't just take them, they snatched 2 girls too, and Mark's world instantly tightened as Mars jolts in horror because the 2 people in trouble are Clarice and Misha. Panic slams into him and he knows he has to move right now. Their danger sparks his resolve all over again. He will not let a single thing hurt them. So Mars swallows his rage, switches into strategy, and feigns surrender to track down where Clarice and Misha are. He drops his sword, lets them slap on the cuffs, and says he'll cooperate. One of the captors, thinking he's got Mars right where he wants him, snaps the cuffs on and smirks about how he loves obedient little kids, completely blind to Mars' real plan. Mars is dragged into a lavish building where his captors. They slap him on the shelf like a premium product, proudly saying they delivered the boy like requested and demanding someone called Hidasan, while Mars stays stone serious, eyes sharp, waiting for the exact second to strike. Mars is dragged in front of the operations chief, a slick, smiling man, and he looks genuinely thrilled, like this illegal auction is finally landing right where it belongs. The leader barks orders for Mars to be dragged to the premium products room, and even with that polished look, his words scream one thing: this place runs on profit from human trafficking. Mars keeps his eyes razor-sharp, absorbing every detail like a hunter, ready to strike the perfect moment. Mars finally tracks down Clarice and Misha, then barrels into the room like a storm, yelling that nobody is allowed to touch the girls. The tension snaps and they sprint straight into his arms, safe at last. Clarice beams as she calls to him, Misha fights to keep his feelings in check, and Mars stays cool, calmly asking for silence while he checks that they're both all right. This reunion flips everything, and he made it to them just in time to stop something far worse. Mars lets out a huge sigh of relief when he learns Clarissa and Misha are safe, because the way they were handled like products could have gone way worse. Clarice blurts out an apology for getting caught, but Mars just smiles kindly and tells her it's totally fine. Shaken to the core, Misha grips Clarice and blurts out that she's terrified, laying bare the real weight of what she's been through. Then Mars steps in and admits he let them capture him on purpose to save Clarice and Misha. With a calm, eerie smile, he tells them it's all under control and swears he'll save them completely. Misha gets pulled in by his words and listens, while Mars hammers home his promise. Before long, they'll storm off together to find her mother, and he just begged them to hang on a little longer. Misha flashes a confident grin and immediately buys into Mars' plan. Right then, the captors burst into the room, bark orders for everyone to get out, and keep them trapped under guard. The crew gets marched through the building's twisting halls, and Mars holds the lead like he's got the whole place mapped out, while Clarice and Misha trail right behind him, buying every second of his rescue plan without a shred of doubt. They shove the whole group into this huge room, and there, waiting like a nightmare, are the other prisoners. Mars watch with sharp, unblinking focus. He spots their weapons tucked against the back wall and realizes, good news, the plan might still work, so with a tight, sly smile he swallows his nerves and quietly tells the girls, now we just wait for the perfect moment to strike. What? The Hito Trading Company auction kicks off with full-blown spectacle, hosted by a masked MC who's dripping with pomp. Then he declares this is going to be the biggest exhibition the company has ever seen. Mars keeps his eyes locked on the masked crowd, urging them to jump in with full energy, while he waits for the perfect second to strike and bring this illegal operation to a halt. The auction kicks off with the crowd staring down its very first prize, a former nobleman dragged to the spotlight. But the guests snap with annoyance, start mocking his pick, and flat out refuse the opening bid just to shut down the brewing tension. The masked host tilts his head with a sinister grin, apologizes, and swears he'll reveal the premium products right away, just what Mars needed to push the next step of his plan forward. The stage lights blaze on, and suddenly the premium stars, Misha, Clarice, and Mars, are revealed while the host hypes them up with over-the-top, almost ridiculous sales pitch descriptions. They lay out Misha's rare elven blood, Clarice's flawless beauty, and Mars' priceless potential. Each one gets a starter bid right on the spot, and even with that sick, grotesque atmosphere hanging over them, the three dig in. Mars locks eyes, looks determined, and gets ready to strike. The auction explodes, bids rocket in seconds. 150 coins for the elf, 100 for the human girl, 200 for Mars, and then a crazy 800 for all three at once. The crowd goes wild and the host slams down a staggering 1,000 gold challenge for the trio. While everyone else panics and outbids each other, Mars, Clarice, and Misha stay ice calm, waiting for the exact moment to flip the whole game. Amid the roaring crowd and non-stop bidding, Misha starts to shake. Terror hits hard as that suffocating auction heat closes in on her. The host clocks her reaction and scrambles to twist her fear into a full-blown spectacle. Jadedly, she says her shyness is exactly what the buyers love, while Mars and Clarice lock in and stare, serious as the pressure skyrockets and the turning point finally looms. The auction hits a wild peak, three of them, snagged for an absurd 10,000 gold coins, and as the host starts closing the deal, he counts it out, once, twice, while Clarice watches with icy calm. And the silence crushes in right when the hammer's ready to drop, a shout rips through the air. Wait, the final blow is about to land, and the whole moment is teetering on the edge. The door smashes open and a fresh crew storms in, led by Jedis-sama, booming that the elf, Misha, is his. Flanked by armed brutes, he bulldozes straight through the auction and swats away every bid like they don't matter. Two henchmen are sprawled on the floor, proof his entrance was savage, and from that moment on, the whole hall reeks of violence waiting to explode. Fury blazing across his face, Godot bellows Hito's name, screaming that he dares to steal from him, and the cold stare says it all. Godot's here to grab Misha by force and crush anyone who gets in his way, until the rivalry between both sides finally snaps and the fight becomes unavoidable. Jedu barks an order, attack right now, and roars that they should smash anyone who gets in their way. Hito snaps orders to his men and both groups slam into the fray, right as chaos explodes through the hall. That bottled-up tension finally snaps and open battle erupts. Jedu and Hito scream orders back and forth, rallying their men, and suddenly the whole area becomes a full-on war between factions. While everything spirals into chaos, Mars stays ice-cold and spots the opening. Right beside Clarice, he locks in and declares, "This is it, our chance," pushing for the perfect moment to strike and flip the whole tide. The auction stage explodes with brutal, full-force chaos. Jadu's and Hito's guards slam into each other, trading bone-crushing punches in a brutal clash. While everything spirals into chaos, Mars snaps into action and hurls his magic with razor-sharp precision. His ice missile streaks across the battlefield and freezes the ground solid. He smashes the enemy formation wide open, carves out a pocket of space, and then runs the fight with icy precision, stripping their defenses until the moment he's ready to flip everything. Mars unleashes his magic attack, and the hall instantly turns into a full-blown battlefield. Ice shards erupt across the floor while enemies get flung into the air and ripped apart, disarmed with brutal force. Mars' stunned look snaps into razor focus as he watches his spells finally take effect, then pure chaos erupts. As the brawl rages harder at the heart of the room, the auction crowd loses it, everyone bolts in panic, and the fight finally explodes at the auction stage itself. Guards snarl with weapons out, spells slice through the air, and through all that chaos Mars keeps his eyes locked, spotting the opening. Even the organizers and the wealthy masked buyers, who should have stayed in control, get rattled, panic, and rush to flee. While everyone's thrown off balance, Mars locks in, determination burning in his eyes, and uses the chaos to slip past and free the prisoner. Right as a kidnapper lunges to react, Mars lashes out, an eye-targeting spell that blinds him and drops him hard to the ground. Then, like the strings were never tied, the ropes magically slacken, and the young captives spill free. When Mars tries to act, he snaps his hand to his face, groaning that his eyes feel awful. Clary's darts over, panicked, while Misha points at a special sword lying on the ground, and you can tell right away it's got something strange going on. With Mars back on his feet and gripping that special sword, Clary's charges in beside him, ready to fight no matter what. But on the stage, an organizer spots the commotion, snaps into panic, and watches in horror as the children try to bolt. He screams for his henchmen to grab them, too late. The arena erupts and chaos takes everything. As the brute barrels in, laughing like a maniac and craving a fight, the masked warrior who'd battled him earlier readies himself to clash again. It darts in out of nowhere and smashes him with a sudden strike, shattering his forward momentum. Then the resistance swells with raw power, and chaos erupts everywhere. As the fight rages on, one henchman lunges in with a scream of farewell, but the masked warrior snaps his strike down with ruthless precision. Then Mars' ally barrels in too, dropping a brute with a clean, lightning-quick strike, and with every hit, the resistance swells, proving that this escape isn't even close to being contained. Mars' allies strike with razor-sharp precision, overwhelming every opponent they face. One fighter drops a bigger enemy like it's nothing, proving size means nothing at all. Then the next one unleashes sleep magic to wipe out the stronger foes. Leaving them unconscious like it was nothing, the boss can only stare as his subordinates get wiped out fast, clenching his jaw, ranting that his henchmen were all worthless, while the auction leader finally realizes there's no other choice. He shoves a bag of cash into a mysterious cloaked warrior's hands, practically begging him to fix the mess, and that calm, intimidating man just nods like he's already decided. He doesn't want anyone killed, only shut down. Payments taken, the job's understood, and then he charges straight into the chaos as the protagonists stare, locked in on the deadly new threat. The hired warrior finally steps out and makes himself known with pure authority, gripping a massive sword, glaring coldly at everyone and laying down his terms. If they don't leave right now, he'll make them pay. But if they stay, he won't show an ounce of mercy. His eyes burn with a warning, the whole room tightens like a drum, and he snaps 5 seconds. Right then, the hall's air shifts. The air went silent until his looming presence crushed everything. The second the giant swordsman's threat hit, the henchmen snapped into action. Someone yells Formation B, and the 2 fighters up front stride in with zero fear, boxing the enemy in and shutting down their moves. Meanwhile, the group's mage raises his magic staff and starts pouring power into his spell, eyes locked in total focus. The plan's simple: hold the enemy at the front line until the magic attack is ready. But the swordsman's stare says he's not about to be boxed in. The swordsman stands there stone cold, watching 2 enemies surge forward in Formation B. He's already clocked the trick. Draw him in with a double assault while the mage lines up a long-range spell. With a cold, unshaken stare, he decides, if I'm a monster, then maybe this'll do it. Then without a second thought, he swings that massive sword in a brutal arc, slicing the ground ahead and stomping the 2 attackers' momentum dead in its tracks, while in his other hand he keeps hold of the coin bag like it means something, proving money and brute strength won't earn him mercy. And just like that, the swordsman smashes through the enemy crew's illusion of control with a devastating hit. With one clean, furious flick, he hurls the coin bag, the bribe he just got, straight at the mage mid-spell, and it slams through the magic shield, cracking the caster across the face and cutting the enchantment off cold. The 2 frontline fighters freeze in stunned disbelief as their whole plan topples from that single move, their faces screaming fear and the sick realization that they just underestimated a real warrior. The swordsman glares at them like he's itching for a fight, then throws a cutting, sarcastic question, "Hey, where are you looking?" And just like that, their rhythm shatters. The 2 adversaries scramble to react, throwing together a last-second battle formation. One grabs the defense while the other slams the attack. But it's already over. The warrior spots every move and strikes ahead of it with deadly, pinpoint timing. The fear etched across their faces says it all. They can already feel the plan crashing down, and nothing they've tried can touch someone who's so far ahead. With one explosive burst, the swordsman slams down a strike so brutal the two opponents get yanked off the ground like puppets. Both their bodies and their weapons sail through the air as they can't even blink fast enough to react, and that single hit instantly exposes the gap between them. Raw power in one, ruthless, perfect control in the other. The scene slams to the warrior standing tall and terrifying as his enemies get blasted into the air, utterly dominated, while the swordsman wipes out the entire group in one brutal strike, leaving the vendor in total panic and desperation. He tries to bolt, but he gets caught completely off guard. As the warrior closes in with pure relentlessness, he sets up yet another earth-shattering blow. The swordsman swings with brutal force, smashing into the building's bones and ripping part of its structure apart. Leaving everyone stunned, some freeze in fear, others blurt nervous laughs, and a few just stand there confused, not knowing how to deal with the brutal power they just witnessed. After mowing down every enemy with effortless power, the warrior still stands tall in the wreckage, right over the unconscious mage's body, debris everywhere, while the crowd panics and scrambles to escape, realizing just how monstrous his strength is. And at the edge of it all, the organization's leader watches, deadly calm. Believing there's nothing left but to grab the boy and finish his plan, he pushes forward. Then the swordsman feels something's terribly off. He'd o'clocked the whole situation, sensing something fishy, and he couldn't believe he had to rely on allies who were weirdly weak. A feared warrior creeps forward with deadly intent, locking eyes on the boy like he can't trust a second of him. Then he bristles, shocked that someone so young would ever drag themselves into that disgusting crew. The air turns razor-thin as stifling tension snaps between them, and the boy stays wide-eyed and ready, reading every move from the crushing power closing in. The warrior tries to dodge the fight and tells the boy to run, swearing he gets no joy from hurting kids. Then an interruption hits, his fury erupts in a ferocious roar, and he makes it clear this is the last warning he'll ever give, but the boy, eyes messed up or not, refuses to back down. When the threat hits, the warrior growls and barks for him to move out of the way, right now, and the tension between them spikes to the breaking point. The boy's vision starts acting weird, and the closer he gets, the clearer it becomes. Something has seized him, swallowed his movement, and pinned him completely still. With his opponent totally defenseless, he grips his sword tight and sets himself in place, poised to strike. The boy's shocked by his own warped vision, then it hits him. He's not just seeing things, he's glimpsing future openings, and he starts predicting the opponent's next move, already one step ahead. He sees the strike coming clear as day, and when that terrifying truth hits, he just confirms it. He's really watching the future. And just like that, he snaps into action and dodges the attack at the last second. The boy shocks his opponent by dodging 2 attacks in a row, something everyone swears is impossible, even though the guy's clearly holding back, and that's when curiosity kicks in as the man leans closer to ask who he is, firm as ever. The boy blurts out that he's got the divine eye, and then fires back, asking if the opponent will step back once he knows. But the moment he sees the reaction, he knows immediately. Turns out the answer is a hard no. Sila's wafer steps into the light, drops his name, and flexes his power to snag the boy's attention. The boy snaps his ability on, and boom, he reads Sila's insane stats, the best he's ever seen. Fear hits, so he braces for the fight, but Sila's only smiles and vows he won't let the boy slip away. Sila's lunges in with jaw-dropping speed. Catching the boy completely off guard, even with lightning-fast reflexes, the youth finally realizes. He won't dodge in time, this hit feels unavoidable, and danger is about to slam down on him. The boy plants himself to stop Sila's devastating strike. But the enemy's sword slams in with crushing force, and when he tries to block, his weapon gets shoved aside and he gets hurled back, brutal impact ringing through his body as he fights like hell just to stay on his feet. Even with Sila's power crushing everything in his path, the boy shows crazy fast reflexes, darting out of harm's way and slamming blocks in with pinpoint precision. Even with a brutal physical disadvantage, he steadies his nerve, forcing Silas to finally admit the boy's got real skill, even in the middle of that savage fight, though Silas is impressed by the talent. Silas snaps at him to quit the fight, saying his skill would be wasted in that exact situation. The boy snaps into action and confronts him head-on, demanding to know how someone this powerful could possibly turn to slave trafficking. With zero hesitation, he challenges Silas, morals, and locks in on saving Clarice and Misha, no matter how brutal the threat gets. The boy instantly senses danger closing in, then snaps into action the second he sees it. Clarice and Misha went to threaten them, then Misha snapped his hand forward and unleashed his magic. He hurled a lethal wind blade straight at the enemy. The strike rips through part of the stage, shoves the masked man back, and for a moment the girls are safe. Then the masked man regroups, after he unleashes that massive magic to shield Clarice and Misha. The kid stands in front of everyone and snaps, loud and clear, "I'm not your enemy." And the warrior instantly backs off because he realizes he read the situation wrong. Then the kid drops the real bomb. The person he's working for hasn't even been named yet, and the whole room tightens with tension and anticipation. Right as the tension starts to loosen in the building, a hooded figure glides in, silent as a shadow. With a hard, unshakable stare, she finally drops the truth: Sasha, Misha's mother. Her quiet arrival hits like a warning, and you can feel it. She came to reclaim her daughter no matter what. After that brutal showdown, the tension flips, hostility fades, and curiosity takes over, and the burly guy leans in to ask the boy's name, which he answers with iron confidence. Mars stares, stunned by that wild skill he just witnessed, and he realizes it wasn't only sword work, it had something else behind it. Meanwhile, the slave organizer. Shaken by the sudden alliance between the two orders, the young elf is ordered to be brought in fast, because now they need to grab control of the situation before it spirals. Terror grips the slave organizer and he tries to back out right now. But then his legs betray him, he drops to his knees, then crawls across the floor in pure desperation, until he finally breaks and collapses for good. Panic explodes in his chest the moment something slams into him from behind, hard, snatching the air from his lungs as he screams in pure agony, and in that instant it's unmistakable. His punishment has officially started. While the masked man tries to bolt out the main entrance, a shadowy figure looms overhead, watching his every move. Suddenly something rockets toward Mars and the boy, forcing them both to snap their heads around. Mars snaps into action and slams his giant sword into the incoming projectile, then jolts with surprise when he realizes someone new has just shown up. Sasha drops in from above, towering over everything and smashing the fight to a halt. She barks for them to stop and makes it crystal clear that Mars isn't the enemy. The moment she's in the scene, everyone knows she means business, and that fierce stare says she's about to seize control. Silas orders Mars to rush to the National Academy of Lister, the place where the world's deadliest fighters gather, and drills into him that this step is non-negotiable. When he arrives, Mars has to make sure they know Silas's recommendation. As Sasha offers quiet thanks, Mars stands there in silence, staring it down like his next stop could change everything. Misha sprints toward her mother, bursting with joy, while Sasha, who'd been stiff and silent before, finally lets the silence crack. She breaks down with emotion the second she sees her daughter sprinting toward her. Right there, the reunion turns into pure happiness and total relief, and everyone nearby can't look away as mother and daughter share a heartfelt moment that lands with real respect and emotion. Sasha and Misha sprint toward each other, tears blurring their vision, and when they finally collide, they lock into a tight, heart-wrenching hug. Sasha clings to her daughter like she'll never let go, and Misha sobs tears of pure, bursting joy. That reunion shuts the door on all the pain and drags them back together for a breath of tenderness. Sasha pulls Misha into a warm embrace, and the relief hits like, "I've got you again." Misha grumbles that the hug is too tight, then lets the truth spill out. She's clinging to her mom's chest, and the whole moment turns warm and hopeful. Sasha vows, heart to heart, that she'll never abandon her daughter again. In the background, everyone else stared, their faces cracking with emotion as the reunion unfolded. So after that emotional reunion, can you believe it, peace and unity finally came roaring back. Sasha shoots the boy a grateful thank you, visibly relieved that it all ended safely, and the boy answers her with a warm, genuine smile. Then everyone trades their stories, and Misha, clinging to her mom, breaks into tears of relief as she says she was saved by him and the other girl. The tension melts away, and the episode ends with everyone calm, grateful, and finally seeing each other the same way. After the dust settles at the battlefield, everyone rushes to the inn where Sasha's staying, piling inside to refill their strength and catch their breath. She whipped up a hearty feast, greeted everyone with open arms, and finally let out the tension, wrapped in relief and peace. The whole crew dug into the feast with big smiles, savoring that warm, simple moment that finally broke the tension. The boy learns from Sasha that the Canal City was basically built when criminals all gathered in one place, and that's why the streets feel so hostile and dangerous all the time. Count Beetle kept far away from this place on purpose, because it was insanely dangerous and especially brutal for kids wandering in alone. Sasha tries to thank the boy with a small stack of money for helping rescue Misha, then rushes to explain she'd already burned through everything searching for her daughter, still insisting it's not much, just what she can spare. The boy grins and tells them it's more than enough, saying they're grateful they got to meet Misha. Then they wrap it up with warm smiles, shared thanks, and a promise to meet again. As they part ways, Mars, Clarice, and Misha trade heartfelt words. Mars vows they'll meet again, Clarice waves with a soft, gentle grin, and Misha fires off an energetic farewell like she means it. From down the road, the crew rides off in a carriage, and Sasha and Misha keep waving, thanking every last bit of help and friendship they found along the way. After that gut-punch farewell, Mars and Clarice hit the road again and push toward a brand new city, until they finally reach the massive gate of a towering fortress. They crash over the mountains and make straight for a nearby inn right there. Mars steps up to the counter, flashes a polite smile, and asks the attendant if he can get 2 rooms, coins already clenched in his hand, ready to lock in a quiet, hassle-free stay. The girl asks if 1 room will be enough for the night and offers 2 separate beds, but the boy's face flashes with shock and hesitation, like the air just got heavier with tension and curiosity. In the room, 2 beds sit side by side and the 2 of them go quiet, both clearly freaking out. She jerks her gaze away, covers her face with trembling hands and won't meet his eyes, while he forces out a small smile, sweat pouring, scrambling to keep his cool. The air between them crackles with anticipation, and a ton of awkward embarrassment, like one wrong breath is about to trigger whatever's coming next, the thing they're seconds away from saying. Clarice and Mars scramble to smash the awkward silence with a super polite debate over who gets the bath first. Mars insists Clarice goes first, swearing he's a gentleman, and Clarice just laughs back that anyone who has to brag about being a gentleman is usually up to something. They end up laughing together, and just like that, the tension melts away as they close the distance naturally. While she's in the bath, Clarice can't stop replaying her choice to share a room with Mars, telling herself it's all practical stuff like security, saving money, and avoiding another kidnapping, but the truth slips out anyway because she keeps getting flustered, scrambling to convince herself she's got no secret motives. Down deep, she can't stop herself from admitting she wants something more personal. She's desperate to get closer to Mars, while Clarice is still stuck in the bath. Mars jolts as the crystal in his hands erupts into a fierce glow. That means his family is close. His chest tightens, but he still shoots upright, nerves snapping as he can barely hold it together. He shouts to Clarice that he'll step out for a second to check something, and even though she's confused and panicked, she scrambles to stop him. But before anyone can stop him, he's already bolted out the room, fueled by hope that he'll reunite with someone he loves. Racing through the city streets, Mars finally locks eyes on 2 familiar faces, his father and his brother, Ike, both clutching glowing crystals. Swallowed by emotion, he blares their names and charges straight at them. Then the 3 crash together in the middle of the street. They locked into a tight embrace, practically bursting with relief and joy now that they were finally together again after all that time apart. During the reunion, everyone keeps it warm and respectful as names get traded. Clarice Lampard steps up and introduces herself, and Zeke Bryant, Mars' father, immediately goes, "I know you," because Lord Beetle's letter already mentioned her. Then Ike, Mars' older brother, follows suit and introduces himself too. As soon as everyone sinks into their seats, Zeke leans in and pushes for them to start talking, right over the food. Then a massive feast hits the table, steaming hot and ready to be devoured, marking the start of a warm, family-laced moment that feels like home. Over the meal, Mars pours out every wild thing he's been through, from battling that infernal serpent in the demon forest to getting tangled up with Misha, Sasha, and the whole auction, and everyone leans in, listening hard while they eat. When it's all over, his father, Zeke, lights up with pride, roaring praise and calling him his pride and joy, while Ike and the others stand there, completely blown away by everything that just happened. With the whole crew ready to leave, Zeke slings a quick question: did anyone forget anything? And once everyone confirms they're set, it orders them to press on, so Ike, Clarice, and Mars climb into the carriage grinning, and the moment it lurches forward, they're already set on heading home. As the carriage rolls across the bridge back toward the road, everything outside shifts in an instant, while on the kingdom's side, the gate slams shut, sealing the castle tight under the royal guard's unblinking watch. Far off in the distance, a dark vision looms, an iron fortress wrapped in crackling lightning and black storm clouds, screaming that danger is crawling toward them, ready to rip open the next chapter of their journey. On the way back, the whole crew stays bright in the carriage, trading laughs and wild stories, until a surprise ambush hits and Mars shuts the attackers down in a heartbeat with one clean move, taking them out from a distance. A nasty mishap smashes into the horse, then Clara snaps her hand out and floods it with healing magic, bringing the animal right back to life. As the sun sinks behind the horizon, the carriage glides forward in a calm, steady rhythm, its silhouette slicing toward the next stop. After a grueling journey, the carriage barrels through the city gates at last. As they close in on their destination, the city suddenly comes alive, busy streets, elegant buildings, and the whole place bustling around them. As soon as they touched down, someone blurted out in pure relief, "We made it, we're here." As soon as the mansion came into view, that emotional woman spotted Mars from across the distance. Then she burst into tears, sprinted toward him, and screamed his name like her heart couldn't wait, followed by a warm, open-armed welcome to our home. As Mars stands beside Clarice, he takes everything in with a subtle grin, and for the first time it finally feels like he belongs. Mars comes home and gets wrapped up in warm family hugs, and even as he rushes to apologize for scaring them, his mom greets him with a soft, loving smile that melts the tension away. His little sister sprints over to hug him tight, shaking with how much she missed him, and Clarice just beams at the moment, because you can clearly see how loved Mars really is. Clarice is introduced to Mars' mother, Maria Bryant, and Maria greets her with a warm, gentle smile that instantly puts her at ease. With respect in her eyes, Clara politely speaks up and introduces herself, and when Maria sees those manners, she's moved enough to thank her warmly, because this first meeting between them feels friendly from the start. Mars' family sets the stage for a warm welcome. Everyone piles into the living room, and at 1, 2, 3. They lift their mugs high for a wild toast, grinning like they mean it. Welcome back, Mars, and welcome, Clarice. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the two young people burst into joyful replies. Thank you so much. Because this is exactly what it feels like to belong and be accepted, and Clarice gets pulled into Mars' family with open, warm arms. During dinner, Zeke promises everyone will help Clarice settle in, and Maria leans in with a warm smile, telling her she's got her back, so Clarice finally lets out a sincere thank you. Maria leans in and tells her, don't freeze, ask for help if you need it, and at last, Clarice bows with respect. And then he tells Riina to look after her, blushing hard. Riina lights up and answers, I will, and just like that, their bond starts blooming into something like real sisters. From that moment on, Riina shadowed Clarice everywhere, like they were stitched together at the soul, building a sister bond that meant sharing baths, taking walks, and even falling asleep side by side. Meanwhile, Mars busts his tail helping his father with the family chores, while Ike locks in hard and throws himself into his studies like his life depends on it. A whole month slips by, and suddenly the Bryant household locks into a fresh, peaceful rhythm, everyone finally finding their balance. When Marquis Carmel sends the Bryant family a request to wipe out the monsters in the Almeria dungeon, they don't hesitate, so Dad hands the mission straight to Ike, Mars, and Clarice, demanding they step into his shoes for the exploration and the fight, and the moment they lock eyes, the three of them step up and charge into a brand new journey. When Mars, Ike, and Clarice finally step into Almeria City, head straight for the guild barracks. There a hulking adventurer spots Mars' top-notch gear and slams him with a "you stole this" accusation, yet Mars firmly denies it. They spill the truth, everything they've got came from treasure chests and dungeons. Enraged, the man snaps at Mars to prove himself, daring him to fight and defend his honor. The showdown between Mars and the hulking adventurer kicks off in front of a curious crowd, and the challenger snarls that he'll seize Mars' gear if he can't prove he's stronger. Mars proves he's the better fighter with a lightning-fast, pinpoint strike that drops his opponent in an instant. The crowd erupts in shock and awe, and then right through the chaos, someone steps closer, curious as hell. Mars thrusts a letter bearing his father Zeke Bryant's name straight in front of the guild official. The crowd finally recognizes him with respect, a proud member of the Bryant family, and once they learn where he came from, everything about his terrifying strength clicks into place, with the mission to wipe out the monsters in the dungeon confirmed. He and his crew win the guild's trust and finally get the green light to take on the task officially. Mars, Ike, and Clarice race in and come to a stop right before the towering entrance of the Almeria dungeon. This dungeon reeks of mystery and dread, then out of nowhere, magical birds burst into the air, glowing through the dark like a warning. Something huge is waiting inside. The moment the crew steps into the dungeon, a flock of silver birds explodes into view, threat level D, and Ike instantly snaps, warning everyone to keep their guard up. Clarice snaps into focus and unleashes arrows at the airborne enemies, while Mars and Ike take their battle stance and brace for impact. Then the dungeon erupts as wings slash the air and every attack pounds through the walls. After they obliterated the dungeon's enemies, Mars, Ike, and Clarice stumble on a mountain-high pile of magical stones. Stunned by the sheer amount, they realize there's no way they can haul it all back alone, so the logistics hit them like a wall. They turn back and team up with their father, Zeke Bryant, to hash out the best way to travel. Zeke Bryant, staring down the nightmare of moving mountains of magical stones, doesn't even flinch. He immediately proposes buying slaves to get it done. His casual suggestion absolutely stuns Mars, Ike, and Clarice, and their faces instantly betray the shock at how easily their father brings it up. The crew finally reaches this huge, intimidating building, and a cheerful attendant greets them with a grin. Zeke wastes no time, saying he needs someone with raw strength and quick agility to work as a carrier, and the attendant instantly points them to a beastman's slave, singing praises of their muscles and speed. Zeke doesn't hesitate, he gives the nod on the spot, and the whole crew barrels after the employee through the corridors. The crew pushes deeper into a colossal hallway, hemmed in by cells stacked across multiple floors, and everywhere watchful eyes track their every step. Behind the bars, prisoners, beastmen among them, stare in grim silence. Clarice and Mars scan the scene, nerves buzzing. As Zeke strides forward with deadly confidence, he guides them straight to the slave they'll choose for their next mission. The beastmen prisoners stared down the visiting group with sharp suspicion, because they knew exactly how strong they were, and pride wouldn't let them serve anyone weaker. The guide grins like it's nothing, and right when he explains the whole vibe, Mars spots a cell bigger than the rest. It looms there cold and unreachable, so he can't help it. He asks who's inside, but no reply comes yet. Still, that giant door size screams that something or someone truly strange is waiting behind it. Inside the special cell sits a calm, terrifyingly imposing man beside a massive feline beast, his sculpted body and serene face striking against the violence around them. He's revealed as the former Duke Silicians, one of the 12 dukes of the Lister Confederation, and the Beastman's representative, an elite figure with real weight, his presence hinting that something brutal from the past is about to come to light. At last, Duke Salicence's past slams into the spotlight. Once one of the Beastman's most terrifying powers, he got stabbed in the back by his own allies, seized in a coup, and thrown into exile. Even so, people still feared his strength, so Marquis Carmel coughed up a fortune just to buy him. But Salicence wasn't for sale without terms. He demanded one thing: he would only serve someone stronger than he was. Meanwhile, Clarice snaps on her heaven's eye, and suddenly the truth is laid bare. She's set on measuring the former Duke's real power before anyone dares to make a move. Clarice snaps on her special power, Heaven's Eye, and exposes Duke Selicence's real might. Then she reads his level to see if he's still truly worthy, or if his strength has fallen off like she fears. Clarice's razor-focused stare says she's about to make a decision that could flip the fate of the enslaved ex-Duke. Then, out of nowhere, Duke's power explodes in a crushing punch against an opponent. He didn't even have time to react, then boom, the hit lands so hard it shatters everyone's world, Mars and Clarice included, frozen in stunned silence as the ex-Duke's overwhelming power makes it unmistakable. He's still an elite fighter, and his promise to follow only someone stronger wasn't just ego, it was the truth. Seeing Duke Selicens tear everything apart, Mars snaps into action and throws himself in front of the others to stop the damage, only for it to happen faster than he can react, and then a jolt hits him out of nowhere, pure instinct, and in that flash he sees himself getting slammed into the wall after going toe-to-toe with the ex-Duke. The vision hits like a punch, sharp, vivid, and terrifying. He feels the impact, the agony, the sheer crushing force of Silicience, and suddenly he gets it. If he charges in without thinking, he'll get wiped out. Meanwhile, Silicience just watches in icy silence, like he's waiting for the kind of person worthy of his loyalty. Then, without warning, Silicience rockets forward with horrifying speed, and Mars realizes he's out of time. He can't dodge the incoming strike, no chance. Panic hits, his instincts scream, and he knows it's coming straight for him, full force. His eyes blow wide and a lightning-fast thought hits. This is it, I'm finished, I can't dodge. Then, right before impact, a hard voice cuts through the chaos. Barrier. A magical barrier snaps into place between them, summoned by Clarice, and it barely stops the devastating attack. Then the blast slams into the shield, cracking it open while saving Mars from a death he wouldn't have escaped. Silesian slams to a stop, stunned. Then Mars spots Clarice getting hurled into the wall, and it hits him like a blade. Dread crashes in hard, the sight of her hurt stabbing straight through him, and the truth lands even worse. If he backs down now, she could die for real. Fear melts into ruthless, silent fury as he locks eyes with his opponent, and his whole body starts to shake, not with terror, but with something ancient waking up inside him. The vibe flips instantly, then the ground rips open, sparks scream through the air, and that secret power finally starts to roar to life. Mars surges forward until a brutal chest punch hammers him back, rattling the whole hall. That impact hits so hard it snatches the attention of every single person in the room. Zeke freezes in shock, Clarice clamps her hand over her mouth, and even the toughest veterans tense up like a spring about to snap for a heartbeat. It looks like it's all over. But through the smoke, he's still standing solid. Mars' eyes shift, and that wild energy stops circling and starts pouring inside him, like it's finally found its target. That hit wasn't the end, it was the spark, and the real fight is just starting. He spots sparks snapping around the enemy's arm and realizes it wasn't pure brute force. Magic was fueling it too. The hit still lingers in his body, but instinct locks him in place. Ahead of him, the ex-Duke Silence glides his fingers with eerie calm, like he's only getting warmed up, eyes still icy and razor-sharp. Between them, the silence thickens and the tension keeps climbing, higher, higher, higher. Mars realizes this isn't going to be some ordinary fight. the man ahead is a full-blown nightmare, packed with raw strength, magic, and razor-precise control. No hesitation left. Even with exhaustion gnawing at him and injuries screaming, Mars plants his feet and holds his ground. The ex-Duke folds his arms with a smug little smirk like he's already seen the ending. This wasn't just a brawl, it was a cold, calculated provocation meant to crack you in the mind too, not just in the body. Game S over. Mars finally gets it. He wasn't fighting a normal opponent. Whoever he faced turned every hit into a message, and this battle was rigged from the start by the one who had more than power, they had control. After that brutal clash, Mars drops into a bow and blurts out an apology, because he's still terrified someone spotted his magic eye. He clenches his composure, steps up and introduces himself as Mars Bryant, then demands the other guy's name. Burns Leo steps into the spotlight and shows his power with respect, and Mars immediately asks for permission to test him again. Right on the spot, it's granted. Mars trains his magic eye on Burns Leo's stats, and when the numbers light up he's slammed with shock because the ex-Duke's strength, agility, and endurance are absurdly off the charts. He clocks the situation and admits he's dealing with someone truly extraordinary, while Mars pushes the talks forward, trying to strike a deal. Burns Leo slams his fist down and vows he'll never serve anyone weaker than him. Then he tosses Mars aside and doubles down on his pride. But when he finally locks eyes with Mars' resolve, a flash of hesitation creeps in, and for the first time, his never sounds shaky. Even though Burns Leo first shuts him down, Mars flips the script, somehow winning real respect from the other beastmen and shocking everyone. Fans were blown away by his raw strength and perfect posture, and right then they were cheering to have him as their master, like the whole atmosphere just flipped upside down. After stunning the beastmen, Mars boldly asks to judge everyone in the crowd. Once they give the green light, he tests each candidate and picks the ones he personally wants to bring along. Proud Zeke drinks in all the praise for his son's talent, then watches as everyone finally walks out smiling, fully satisfied with the choice. After a round of evaluations, they bring in 6 brand new members, one by one, and the whole story shifts gears. Meet the Black Wolf Tribe's 3 brothers, Guy, Mac, and Orr. 3 women, Missy, Ray, and a third whose name was still a mystery, stepped forward and introduced themselves with respect, making it crystal clear. This was the start of a brand new alliance, with Mars calling the shots. Zeke Bryant huddles the crew together and strides them toward a fresh start, right as the newcomers finally get the green light. He drops the news he rented a whole house just to keep them safe, and the whole group locks arms, thrilled for this brand new chapter as a real team. After the crew finally got settled into the new house, Zeke called everyone together for their very first big get-together. With the table piled high with food, everyone crowds in and cheers together, right there in the middle of a non-stop, lively feast. While they're eating, Ray lines in and demands Zeke's permission so the others can sit at the table with them. Zeke agrees but shuts it down fast. This is on Ike and he's starting tomorrow because Zeke's already clocking that the manners were missing. Ray snaps at them to speak properly, and every single one of them nods and obeys right away. During a heated meeting, Zeke lays out the contract terms to the 5 fresh recruits, people who were enslaved before this. He declares that within 3 years, everyone will be forced to move to Ilguja. There, the Black Wolf Tribe's 3 brothers take over dungeon duty, while Missy and Ray get hired as servants, and Zeke makes it crystal clear, no one is allowed to cause a single problem for the group. After they finish eating, the crew argues over who sleeps where in the new house. Black Wolf's brothers claim the lower floor, and Ike, Mars, Clarice, Missy, and Ray take over the upper floor. Zeke ends it by telling everyone, "Tomorrow, I'm counting on you, because we're starting together." The 3 Black Wolf brothers claw their way into becoming rank E adventurers, then celebrate like they just won the whole world. Then they press Ike for instructions, and he tells them flat out he'll test every single one of their skills before he assigns what they'll be doing for the future. I built the Jet brothers as my first test, so they could blast the stone lizards out of the way. These creatures bring only a decent edge, but the brothers with pure strength and stamina stand tall, smirking as they gear up for the fight. The Jet brothers surge forward, slamming into the stone lizards with pure confidence and unshakable determination. With steely eyes and raw momentum, they lock in, ready to fight and prove they've got real power. With perfectly timed, brutal blows that land like a war drum. The 3 Jet brothers slam into the stone lizards with everything they've got, each one unleashing a totally different fighting style. Max lands razor-precise hits or crushes through sheer brute force, while Guy swings in savage bursts, screaming to everyone that underestimating them is a deadly mistake. Guy and Mac keep slugging it out, brimming with fearless grit, and Guy finally hammers one of the lizards with a brutal, arrogant blast, while Mac stays icy calm and lands his blows with surgical precision. With the enemies getting crushed without breaking a sweat, Guy throws his head back and laughs, saying creatures like these aren't even a threat. Then Mac ends the fight with a brutal kick that slams them into the ground, proving he's got the battle totally under control. Or clamps down on a lizard and hammers it into the ground again and again, driving it there until the win is locked in. The Black Wolf brothers' brute strength is so overwhelming that even when they're battered and drained, their enemies still don't stand a single chance. The Black Wolf brothers don't drop after wiping out every enemy, though the hits still bite, leaving back pain in their wake. Mac's hurt bad, but Guy keeps his chin up, blazing with confidence and pride. Even under those crushing conditions, they refused to fold. After sealing the win, they declared victory with relentless fire in their hearts. The three brothers hold their breath, begging for Ike's yes, and then he hits them with an answer they never saw coming. He isn't satisfied with how they performed, and the second it lands, they're left stunned. Then they demand answers. Ike snaps at them to patch up their injuries first, because for him, healing and prep come before any approval. Fresh off her healing touch, Clarice shocks the Jet brothers with a magical talent they didn't see coming. She gets asked her age, and everyone's thinking the same thing. Surely she's an adult if she can master sacred magic. The answer blasts through everyone's expectations, because Clarice drops the bombshell that she's only 8 years old. Ike steps up with zero hesitation, laying out exactly why the brothers never got approved. He charges forward solo, straight into two monstrous threats. With a snap of his command, he fires off a brutal order, and his spear erupts, blasting a devastating wave of flame, erasing his enemies in a single, instant strike. His move screams loud and clear that there's no match for the gap between them. Ike slices through two lizards in a blink, dead-on, ruthless, and lightning fast, showing off total combat mastery. Then he lands the attack, locks eyes on the brothers, and calmly asks if they finally get how massive the gap in skill really is. And what they just saw just proved one thing: they're still miles away from his level. Ike snaps at the trio over their fight screw-ups, then drills them with the real lesson. When you explore labyrinths, you don't burn energy for nothing, you save it, and he roars that they're bleeding stamina because they never think while they're fighting. And so he tells them, stand together 3 as 1, because without a plan, you don't survive. Ike orders the three brothers to square up against a grizzly bear, as their no excuses reality check. In the middle of the fight, he barks orders. One guy has to shut down the creature's attacks, and the other locks down its movements, turning the whole battle into a real teamwork test where every move plays to each person's strength, and then it's on as they clash with the grizzly bear. Ike barks the next command, hold that beast's breathing, and MacJet springs in, all speed, all precision. He rockets forward and slams his strike straight into the enemy's chest, while his brothers pin it down so it can't move, and that tight teamwork proves they're leveling up in every joint fight. After wiping out the grizzly bear together, the Black Wolf brothers stand tall, proud as can be, savoring every hard-earned victory. When Ike flashes them a positive sign, the whole crew feels seen, and just like that, with their progress secured, Ike steps in and they race through the second floor, then wisely shut the door on the hunt and head back, ending the day's mission like pros. When they finally hit the dungeon's second floor, the group freezes, because what they see is downright terrifying. A room swarming with monstrous ants tears into the bear's corpse they just killed a moment ago, and when everyone sees that horrifying twist, their brains freeze, staring in stunned disbelief. The moment the group steps in, they know it's bad. An abnormal swarm of monstrous ants has swallowed the floor, tearing into the bear's remains like they're nothing. Mars confirms the second floor had 0 sightings, but the sheer number of those monsters still chills you to the bone. So when Ike realizes the danger he didn't expect, he bolts back on the spot and rushes to the guild to warn them. Back at the guild, Ike and the crew rush to Ralph with an urgent report that couldn't wait. Right in the middle of the meeting, they're hit with a name that carries weight: Evan Sayorm, Marquis of Carmel, an authority figure who's impossible to ignore. Seeing the stakes laid bare, Ralph snaps to Ike to start his report right now. While the report is going, Ike points out something terrifying. Ant monsters are suddenly crawling on the labyrinth's second floor. Ralph shoots back the brutal guess: what if they're assassin ants? Terrifying beasts with a nasty habit of multiplying without control and devouring anything in sight. And Heaven's Sarm is freaking out, because these monsters are supposed to be locked up in the Forest of Death in the Kingdom of Ristar. With overpopulation looming inside the labyrinth, everyone there realizes the whole situation could blow up fast and get totally out of hand. And they kick off a heated talk about urgent measures as the air turns razor-thin with tension. Ralph straight up questioned Ike about what he'd do when the assassination threat came down, and after a tense pause where everyone held their breath, Ike answered with a rock-solid look. He fires back that if it were up to him, he'd already have a solid answer locked in, meaning he's about to lay out a bold plan to smash the problem. Ike doesn't leave any room for doubt. He locks in his plan and decides to summon 3 ranked C teams from Olgusia: Brown Shield, Blue Fang, and Red Wing. He gathered every adventurer and slave in the city into the last room on the first floor, because the whole plan hinged on one thing: getting the beastmen to actually cooperate. Ike declares that Burns has to cooperate, no way this plan succeeds without it. So the leaders lock in their decision. This isn't a warm-up, it's going to be an all-out war against the dungeon monsters. After hearing those reports of Burns, Ralph decides to chase Ike's plan. The next morning, the city's adventurers gather for a meeting, and Ralph wastes no time. He dives straight into preparations and takes charge of reaching Viscount Bryant. The 3 C-ranked teams, Brown Shield, stepped into the spotlight. Alarms crackle for the labyrinth operation, and meanwhile, one of the leaders fired off a question to the beastmen, basically saying their cooperation could make or break the mission, and every beastman nodded along except Burns, who flat-out refused to even speak. So the leaders push Mars, Burns already knows him, to give persuasion one shot and convince him to join the mission. Mars tracks Burns down in person, sure he won't have to deal with him again, but standing face-to-face with that intimidating wall of a man makes his hesitation explode, because Burns leans in and flat-out demands what he wants. Mars goes straight to Burns and tells him point-blank to come with them into the Elmiria labyrinth. Burns flat-out shrugs at the city's doom, saying that if everyone dies, he'll just pack up and leave. Mars snaps back and reveals this. Marquis Carmel swore he'd grant any wish Burns wanted, if Burns would just agree to step in and play along. Buy-in slams down a demand. He'll only lend his power if they bring the sacred magic user Flora, and when Mars hears that name, he's left staring in shock. Burns's relentless insistence made it feel totally impossible to track down an unknown person that fast. He fires back, demanding to know the real reason behind this request, and right then, Burns drops the mask and reveals what he's truly after. He's begging Florida to rip the curse off Ellie, the monster riding alongside him. Mars' eyes widen. He knows sacred magic users can shatter curses, but he can't shake the fear that Flora might not pull it off. Burns vows with pure determination that he'll keep pushing Flora, round after round, until she finally smashes the curse and succeeds, no matter what comes next. Mars clings to his sacred magic user status like a guarded secret, and then everything changes. He swallows his doubts, agrees to Burns' terms, and heads out to hunt down Flora, while Burns finally agrees to cooperate too, but only if one condition is met. Ellie has to stay safe, and he can't let her out of his sight for even a second. Meanwhile, he pledges to stay right outside the labyrinth, standing guard over the city, refusing to move until Flora is found. Mars beams at him and thanks him for the call. Now she's gearing up to take on whatever threat might be lurking. He snaps the Sylph Wind Cloak into action, boosting his body's power as he creeps forward with laser-focused caution. Striding forward, he clenches onto the same brutal memory from his clash with Sir Burns, using that surge to keep his mind locked and razor-focused. Behind the scenes, shadowy strangers kept their eyes locked on him. He finally triggers his ability, and a surge of brutal energy rips through his body. Then, right when he's at the peak of it, he spots something that shouldn't be there. A screaming horde of grotesque monsters surges toward him, and even with his magic aura blazing around his skin, he braces for impact, because the power he just unleashed is about to get tested right away. Mars detonates a crushing burst of energy, and in the blink of an eye, it wipes out the enemies surrounding him. Shock hits him as he realizes the attack fired on its own, just a flawless reflex from his activated power. Then he locks eyes on the chest in front of him, and can't ignore how far he's evolved, and the control is slipping into place. He's finally starting to master his new powers, while Mars studies what that last attack did, frowning at the brutal mana drain, and then, bam, his shadowy figure materializes right behind him. Flora, watching him from afar, lets out a scream and snaps his attention, too late, because Mars turns just as it's already gone wrong. A shadowy, unknown force lunges out of the darkness and barrels straight toward him. Flora sprints to Mars, heart pounding, desperate to explain what she just saw. He fires back that he's been training solo, then points out it's the exact same magic that tore into Sir Burns earlier, and when Flora hears that, her curiosity flips into shock. She suddenly recognizes the energy she felt, like her instincts are screaming, "I know this." Mars, stunned, starts to feel it. There's a bigger bond between them, or maybe the power he's holding is tied to it somehow. Flora catches the same attack sensation she felt before, back when everything changed between them. Mars nods it all into place, and suddenly they're back in that convenience store, replaying their last meeting like it just happened. They're convinced nobody got hurt, and they start gushing about how Flora's resistance to magic lets her shrug off attacks. She asks, "Can I come with you to the labyrinth now?" And Mars grins as he admits he'd be terrified of her going alone, and just like that, their bond tightens, locking their connection in place. Mars stumbles on a disguise bracelet that lets him cloak his real power and mask what he truly is, a sacred magic user. He and Flora slip on the matching accessories and seal the whole moment with one powerful, symbolic gesture of pure unity. With sincere smiles blazing on their faces, they celebrate how much closer they've become and swear they'll tackle the labyrinth together, side by side. On the day of the ant extermination operation, every group and ally crowds together before the labyrinth. Mars, Flora, the three brothers, and the summoned team adventurers all gathered together. Stand shoulder to shoulder with the Marquis and the other fighters as the ranks snap into place. Burns keeps his eyes on Ellie from a distance, poised and ready to jump in the moment anything goes wrong. The decisive battle is breathing down their necks. Mars and Ralph charge side by side to the front line. He blasts out brutal fire spells to pin down the assassin ants, then the labyrinth erupts into roaring flames as the swarm thrashes in panic. A blazing firestorm and scorching fireballs hammer a wall of destruction, torching the first wave and carving a route for the rest, and right as the group pushes onward, the fight to clear the second floor kicks off at full fury, right through the labyrinth. A fresh wave of danger crashes in. Assassin ants swarm up the stairs from the third floor, ferocious in every step and outnumbering everything in their path. They march with raw speed and crushing force, and the data says it all. Even with barely any magic or skill, they've still got lightning-fast agility and stamina for days, making them terrifying enemies up close. And the worst part, the threat isn't finished. The assassin ants surge into the hall and turn it into a killing ground. The young mage steps right in front of everyone, vowing to protect his comrades with everything he's got. Then he locks in, channels raw power, and whips a devastating wind spell into existence. Tornado the magic whips into existence with violent fury, blasting enemies back and slamming down a barrier that keeps the swarm at bay, while the fight for survival rages on. While that magical tornado keeps wiping out the assassin ants, the melee squad surges forward in perfect sync. Swords flash, strikes land on cue, and fresh space opens up in every swing. On the front lines, they push forward with relentless grit, even as the swarm throws up fierce resistance. And up on the walls, the other warriors brace themselves and watch, ready to jump in. The extermination team moves like one perfect weapon, striking in total sync. Then, right in the middle of it, a brand new threat crashes the party. A queen ant smashes through the wall like a wrecking ball, and every fighter freezes in shock. Then Mars blasts the alarm and warns the whole group about the danger. With stats that make regular ants look pathetic, this creature becomes a nightmare challenge, so the warriors regroup fast, bracing themselves to fight it with pure caution and sharp strategy. Mars realizes his tornado magic just isn't enough to take down the queen ant. No matter what he tries, it falls short. Even with pure determination blazing in him, the enemy refuses to fall. No time to waste, he flips the plan on the spot and sprints straight for Flora, like he already knows exactly how the next move is going to land. Ike steps in like a storm and wipes out the queen ant with a crushing no-miss strike, earning Mars full approval. Now that their leader is beaten, the surviving ants scramble back and retreat. After the battle ends, every adventurer rushes together, breathless with relief, victory in hand, and surrounded by fallen insect bodies. With their powers locked in, the mages slam up a brutal wall of earth and ice, trapping the enemies and shielding the group with it. The barrier snapped up, and they seized the opening to regroup in a smart, calculated pause, and to catch their breath before they throw themselves back into the mission. The group finally catches their breath after the fight, slumping down like the war just ended in their bones, knowing the real danger is still looming just ahead. Mars and Flora lock in a real moment of brotherhood, grinning like they've got each other's backs. They stood side by side, full of trust and brimming with hope for what was coming next. Mars and the Flora collapse side by side, utterly drained after the fight. As they climb up, Mars suddenly spots something and blurts, worried out of his mind, what's going on, because whatever he's seeing has totally grabbed his attention. Mars finally spots Ralph, and then a woman rushes in with a huge, joyful greeting that lights up the moment. Saying Mars' mother is finally relieved, Ralph proud. When his son Mars overtakes him, pride ignites. He just grins and drinks in the moment like it means everything. That group is staring down a nightmare. Right now, the earthen wall holding them back is predicted to crack within just 30 minutes. Meanwhile, Clarice stays out cold, and the others crack jokes about what just went down between her and her possible rescuer. One of the characters jokingly claims that, just like in a fairy tale, only a prince's kiss can wake her. Then Clarice starts to stir and slip back into consciousness. Still dripping sweat and visibly rattled, they finally breathed easy when those comforting words reached them. Her eyes crack open, surprise and confusion hit her all at once as her mind scrambles to understand what's happening around her. Clarice jolts awake, still burning with embarrassment, replaying everything that happened. Then she realizes she's been watched the whole time, and when her eyes land on Maria, her shame spikes because she couldn't react fast enough. Even with the awkward tension hanging in the air, the young man beside her can't help but smile at her shy expression, and somehow, just like that, the whole mood lifts. The whole crew stares with bated breath as reinforcements rush back, and the tension finally loosens. Then, the nightmare closes in fast, massive, grotesque, and terrifyingly huge. Creatures surge out of the darkness, charging forward in one unstoppable mass. The showdown is about to kick back off, and everyone tightens up for what's coming next. Guards and mages stare intently as the giant guard ants loom in, ready to strike. The acid begins to chew through the wall, and these creatures hit like monsters with insane strength, razor agility, and iron endurance. To dodge a disaster from acid splashes, the team drops wind attacks like tornado and chooses a far safer plan: pure caution, razor-sharp precision. The giant ants surge forward with raw ferocity, but the defenders clamp down at the front line, waiting on a strategist's cue. The crew fires off a perfectly timed barrage from range, boxing the enemy in tight and dodging any close-up with the acid. Spells and rushing projectiles rain down one after another, and the fight finally kicks off. A massive explosion rips through the defensive wall, tearing out a huge chunk in an instant. He shoved a path through the wild, and a whole horde of giant ants surged forward, crushing through the usual creatures in their way. A towering, terrifying ant steps into view, and you can tell right away, this isn't just another threat, it's the kind that gets people killed, and the fight instantly spikes into full-on chaos. Then the queen ant crashes the scene, and everything goes from bad to nightmare fuel. Bigger, stronger, and built like a tank, it doesn't just intimidate everyone, it crushes their confidence with raw power and tough-as-nails resistance. And one character spots the truth instantly. The queen ant's here, and that means a terrifying, potentially world-ending disaster for everyone. With the queen ant's threat looming, the crew bolts out fast. No chances, no losses. Then one guy refuses to retreat and stays put to test his own strategy. While everyone else backs off, he charges straight into danger, locked in with courage and total confidence in his plan. Clarice decides to stay too, and she steps right in next to the ally who refused to leave. They're both told don't get reckless, and still they stand their ground, staring down the swarm of ants, all marching under their queen. Once the evacuation wrapped up, the young man steps forward and vows that nobody else will get pulled into this fight. He's taking the whole hit and owning what comes next. A brutal wind magic blast tears through the air, but when it hits the queen ant, it bounces right off, utterly useless. Who resists easily, then the creature snaps back fast, blasting a brutal spray of acid. Shoving both fighters back before they can blink, the battle turns way nastier than anyone predicted, and the ants surge forward in one unstoppable wave. The young caster throws caution to the wind and goes all in on a lightning strike, pouring his magic into a blazing sphere, shocking it with electricity, then driving that raw power straight into his hand. With pure determination burning in his chest, he hurls the spell with everything he's got, driving it straight into the enemy swarm. The lightning attack slams down with sheer, overwhelming force. Exploding right in the middle of the ants' army, a blinding flash and crackling electric sparks tear across the battlefield as a devastating roar shakes everything. This is where the offensive finally hits its peak. Lightning crashes down and the attack lands perfectly, flipping the whole battle on its head. One ant is totally paralyzed, its whole body locks up, and it can't move a single inch by itself. Reese stared, stunned by how hard the spell hit, while the young mage swallowed and admitted the mana cost was brutal, too expensive to pull off again and again. Still, this tactical win matters. Clarice paralyses the queen ant, but now she's left wondering if the victory really landed. The non-stop buzzing of the other ants tells him the danger isn't gone, because this fight still isn't over. The group decides to fall back for now, staying on high alert in case the next attack comes crashing down. After he finally staggered back from the battlefield, the heroes break the news about the queen ants getting crushed, and the crowd erupts with praise and sheer relief. Realizing just how brutally the fight was draining him, the crew calls it a night and crashes at a nearby inn to heal up and gear themselves for whatever's coming next. Just as Mars finally catches his breath after the mission, terrifying news rips him from his rest. Those ants have shattered through the maze entrance and are already spilling out. And just when you think it can't get worse, the real queen ant finally steps out, shattering everything, because the last fight wasn't against the true leader at all. And the danger slams back, bigger, harsher, and way more terrifying than before. spotting the new threat crawling out of the maze. Mars is stunned to find Sir Burns already in the middle of battle, so strong and so fast. Then he hammers the ants with crushing, devastating strikes. Snapping a perfect shot into one of the creatures, his sudden arrival sparks fresh hope as the renewed threat closes in. Sir Burns barrels forward with brutal force and wipes out the giant ant in one clean, pinpoint strike. Everyone's blown away by how razor-sharp he is, and that swagger alone makes people trust him. Then, with the route only partly cleared, a teammate charges ahead, while the rest nod and admit Burns is rock solid in a fight. As the charge surges forward, Mars rockets into the fight with his sword, carving a deadly path using razor-precise moves. Each vicious slash drops the ant swarming him, while his teammate ahead pushes through unharmed. Seeing that, Sir Burns jolts with shock, and then his face lights up with real admiration for Mars' sword skills, stunned by just how good he is. Burns fires the question, how can a mage swing a sword like that? And Mars just smiles, gets all humble, and admits, I only know a little. Which makes Burns erupt in laughter and admit that Mars' talent outshines anyone else's. Just as Claris bursts in, sprinting and apologizing for being late, the battlefield is still scarred from brutal fighting. At last, the real Queen Ant shows up, towering, commanding, hemmed in by her swarm, as she stares down the new threat, and the moment cuts off mid-surprise. Burns surges ahead, takes charge of the direct fight, and orders Mars to deal with the smaller ants, while he braces himself to go toe-to-toe with the Queen, the deadliest force on the whole battlefield. Burns charges straight at the Queen Ant, eyes locked on his prey. Mars, meanwhile, could carve a path straight through with devastating blows. He zeroes in on the smaller ants with razor-sharp precision and lightning agility, sweeping the whole surrounding field, because that brutal strategy the two cooked up is finally kicking in, and it's working fast. He kicked off a brutal team-up to smash the swarm, and right on the battlefield, multiple fighters rallied together to take the fight as one. They tore into the ant swarm side by side, swinging swords, driving kicks, and sinking their moves, pure unity and iron determination in every strike. Meanwhile, Sir Burns keeps his ground against the Queen Ant, sweat pouring and bruises bleeding, but he won't back down. The fight crashes into its final, crushing climax, and everyone throws everything they've got, sweat, grit, and all, until Sir Burns, battered and bleeding, can finally breathe as he watches the battle end in relief. Even with a serious face, he snaps for the other warriors to rush in and back up the rest of the group. Mars clocks what they mean, flashes a determined grin, and barks for instant backup for the allies. Right there on the battlefield, unity and team spirit take over. Mars clocks that Sir Burns is bleeding energy past his limit, and panic hits, because if he collapses, it'll drag everyone down with him. Swallowed by determination and reminded that he does all of this for Ellie, Mars steps up and asks Burns for a moment, then with his father's approval backing him, he steels himself to act, showing real courage and full responsibility when it matters most. Surprising everyone, Mars snaps out sacred magic and stitches Sir Burns' wounds shut with a healing spell, leaving Burns stunned, impressed, and genuinely moved as he admits how rare and valuable that power is. Mars just smiles and asks for discretion, like this secret is only meant for a select few. The scene shuts down on a gut-punching memory of Ellie, and suddenly Mars feels like more than a planet. It's tied to something deeper, bigger, and hauntingly real. No matter what the group does, this fight won't end. New waves of enemies keep crashing in, and they come by the hundreds. The fighters are wrecked, body aching, minds breaking, while cries of pain roll out and doubts hang heavy in the air. Despair keeps swallowing the room as everyone wonders how much longer they can keep standing, or if this brutal fight will ever end. The real nightmare finally shows its teeth. Arlen, the named Queen Ant, bursts into the scene like a walking apocalypse, far beyond anything normal, stuffed with earth magic and wild regeneration, and her sheer presence slams everyone's courage right out of them as exhaustion turns into pure, gut-deep fear. Facing the massive threat Arlen brings, Sir Burns shoves Mars into action, orders him to back up the other adventurers, then grabs the fight himself, taking full responsibility to stand against the danger alone, even as worry gnaws at Mars over his condition. Mars obeys without hesitation, and as he presses forward, a hidden power starts to awaken inside him. Burns finally bears his real reason, everything he's doing is for Ellie, and then his power detonates so hard it rings out the words Beast King. Next thing you know, Sir Burns tears off the mask and fully transforms into the Beast King. Wild hair whipping, a savage energy roaring out of him, he locks eyes with Arlen like a storm about to strike, body brimming with power as he charges forward, ready to become the final wall of defense. In his Beast King form, Sir Burns hurls himself forward with unstoppable power, smashing into the giant ants as he charges straight at them. With a brutal snap of motion, he yanks out multiple enemies in one flurry, each hit landing so fast and hard that the creatures can't even blink, so the fight's momentum flips back toward the heroes. With a thunderous roar, Sir Burns barrels straight at Arlen, the true queen ant, and smashes through every minion in his way, carving a brutal trail of wreckage while Arlen's very presence looms as a nightmare. But Burns, blazing in his Beast King form, steps straight up to face her head-on, no matter how terrifying the enemy is. Sir Burns locks eyes with Arlen, fury blazing in his Beast King form, and then he unleashes a full-force attack. As the queen ant sits there like a statue, she glares at him with ice-cold eyes. The tension snaps to a breaking point, and right in front of them, two unstoppable forces are seconds away from detonating in a no-turning-back confrontation. Sir Burns explodes forward with pure fury, smashing a stone block, and then barrels straight at Arlen, his hit coming down violent, sharp, and dead-on. Burns smashed the queen ant straight in the face, cracking through with Beast King raw power, and that impact screams one thing: he's not holding back as he crushes the main threat. Sir Burns keeps smashing forward. He drives a bone-crushing punch into Arlen's face, wrecks it on impact, and leaves the monstrous queen blinking in shock. Then he rips in with a brutal kick, smashing another giant ant, and crushing multiple more in the blink of an eye. With raw beast strength, he barrels through the stone pillars and cracks the battlefield open. His Beast King form dominates every inch, carving out a real chance for the next turning point. Even with Burns wrecking her with devastating attacks, Queen Arlen still shocks everyone. Her wounds knit back together almost instantly, and he realizes the monster isn't just tough, it can heal like nothing else. Even with the Beast King throwing down with all his power, the fight still isn't even close to ending. And Arlen starts unleashing a brand new power, and with one step, she rattles the whole battlefield. Queen Arlen slams her earth magic into action, and a massive wave of sand erupts up from the ground. The ground suddenly buckles and everyone jolts. Burns and the adventurers both backpedal, scrambling to figure out what's going on. The battlefield shakes hard as the sand starts swallowing everything, turning the fight into a brand new nightmare. The moment Queen Arlen whips up that charging wall of sand, the adventurers snap into action fast. Stone barriers slammed up, ice walls surged into place, and a brutal power came crashing. These tornadoes get conjured in a last-ditch bid to trap or shove the sandstorm back. Meanwhile, Burns braces for a no-holds-barred clash, staring the queen down head-on, while behind him, civilians and rookie fighters scatter in terror, panic exploding in the streets. He finally saw it: the battlefield had erupted into full-blown chaos. Now the whole battlefield is buried under sand, and every single step gets harder for everyone. Burns clocks the terrain disadvantage instantly. But he flips the switch on his Beast King transformation, massive power and lightning-fast agility, with a brutal hit to his resistance. And even when his ally begs him not to, he brushes it off, ignores the warnings, and shouts for immediate healing. Burning with pure resolve, he charges the enemy with everything he's got, yet he grits his teeth in fury as the queen ant keeps regenerating again and again, like it's impossible to stop. Even after strike, the enemy shows zero signs of going down. Mars snaps that the creature's HP regen has supercharged, and now this fight is a full-on race against time. After Burns' magic heals him, he finally sees it. His friends are wrecked, and they can't keep trading blows anymore. The whole fight is on his shoulders, no one else can finish it. With pure determination, Burns and Mars team up and rush the queen ant to end it for good. They both tear in at full speed, knowing only a perfectly timed tag team can beat the enemy's non-stop, lightning-fast regeneration. The creature feels them closing in and snaps its claws into place, ready to strike in the final showdown. With razor-sharp determination in their eyes, Vern and Mars strike the queen ant on sync. While Mars slices with lightning speed and razor precision, Burns goes on a rampage, hammering in with tail swipes and brutal fist strikes. The creature fights back with everything it has, but bam, it's hammered from every angle, struck again and again. Mars and Burns keep hammering the queen ants with brutal coordinated strikes, and even the enemy's insane speed regeneration can't keep up. Mars lashes her with laser-accurate blasts, then unleashes furious burn attacks that leave no room to breathe. Rage erupts from the creature. One brutal strike lands dead on Mars, and he gets launched into the air, shocking everyone and proving this enemy isn't anywhere close to being done. Mars gets saved at the absolute last second, when a magical barrier snaps into place and blocks the danger. An ally hurls his weapon at him, and he snatches it out of the air with razor-sharp precision. Mars darts in with razor-sharp resolve and slams the creature back with a scorching flaming strike. The duo doesn't slow down for a second. They hammer the creature with everything they've got, and while Mars crashes in with a thunderous punch, his ally stands guard, slashing in with his sword to cover every move. Even with the whole coordinated attack hitting at once, the creature fights back. Time is draining fast. Now it's revealed Mars's transformation will burn out in just 5 more minutes, and the danger won't back off. Mars throws out a last resort plan, unleash his crushing, paralyzing magic no matter what. Even with the insane energy drain and the brutal challenge of keeping it under control. The ally swallows the fear and chooses it because without it everyone dies. The call is made. They end the fight right then and the final plan kicks off immediately. The mage lifts a paralyzing spell and snaps a warning at Mars, stay away once it fires. Then he starts channeling the magic. Mars charges straight at the enemy, rage blazing as he fights for time, fully knowing the danger he's stepping into. The battle hits its boiling point, and Mars rockets himself at the creature with pure fury. Trading brutal punches, he keeps fighting, even as a blade drives through him, injuries ripping him apart. He keeps smashing forward without a second thought, pinning the enemy in place so the final plan can kick in. Pain tries to break him, but his drive just burns brighter, his eyes lock on one thing, victory. The mage surges with power, snaps his spell forward, and blasts the creature with a thunderous lightning strike that leaves it writhing in intense electricity. With exhaustion crushing him, he crumples to the ground and admits he can't go on, then drains the last of his strength and hands the fate of the fight to his partner. The electric spell pinned the creature in place, and in that frozen instant, it seized its chance. The warrior surges forward with pure grit, winding up a devastating strike to end it for good, locking onto the enemy's frozen, paralyzed opening. The warrior drives a brutal punch straight into the creature's face. Then it slammed in with pure, overwhelming speed and force. He rockets forward again, leaping right back into the attack and not letting the enemy even breathe. Smashing everything in a non-stop chain of winds. With a scream that tore through the air, pure fury and raw pain. Mars clenches every last scrap of strength and pours it all into one final push. Then he crashes in with a savage strike that crushes the enemy, smashing its head with brutal force. The impact detonates into bloody shards, sealing the final blow after a brutal, selfless clash that ends everything. With the enemy's body crumbling into smoke right before Mars' bloodied hands, the whole battlefield finally goes still. The victor, drained to the bone and down on one knee, stares as the threat finally collapses. Far off cheers thunder through the air. Everyone celebrates the win, bursting with relief and pure pride because the threat is finally defeated. Victory screams rip through the survivors. Mars staggers, wounded to the bone and running on empty. He finds his safe place by wrapping Ellie, the lioness, his purest, deepest bond. Victory's joy and survival's rush collide, and right then his companion closes in, shouting, "Mars." But Mars answers cool and steady, wrapped in the symbol of everything he swore to protect as the battle rages on. Mars gets a delivery box from his companion. Inside is something worth a fortune, and without a word he takes the precious gift while staying right beside Ellie, his loyal partner. Mars tenderly strokes the lioness, pouring out gratitude and love, an end to their rough chapter of struggle, now replaced by a quiet calm and heavy, wordless feelings right before the goodbye. Mars orders them to watch over Ellie, and the boy's face sinks with the weight of it as he clutches the box, his teary eyes screaming responsibility. With a steady, respectful bow to Mars, he promises, through tears and all, that he'll take care of her. That moment seals a bond full of trust, warmth, and real affection, savoring the bittersweet sting of the journey's end while stepping straight into a brand new promise. As Mars cradles in Ellie's arms, gravely wounded, he squeezes out his final whisper, "Thank you," and the lioness holds him tight, tears streaming without a sound. It's a heartbreaking goodbye packed with pain, gratitude, and love, as the warrior who gave everything slips away peacefully, leaving his legacy behind and a new fight to carry on. Lost in the hush of the mountains, a lone cross stands over Mars' grave. Ellie, shattered and unable to stop, sobs at the tombstone's base, wailing her heart out, while behind her the comrades who saw his bravery stand in silence and mourn their final goodbye. Because Mars's sacrifice didn't just win the day, it carved a brutal emptiness, and though the hero fell, his name will burn in memory forever. After the farewell, the young man swallows his heartbreak, decides to comfort Ellie, and leads her toward a brand new beginning. With a calm, unshakable stare, he tells her he's got something to show her, right there in front of a small, cozy house. He steps up with the chest Sir Burns left behind, straight from Mars, and now the moment is here. He rips it open to reveal what the hero left them, a blazing symbol of hope and what comes next. When they pry open the chest left by Mars, a mid-level sacred grimoire spills into view, and just like that, hope ignites in their hearts. This powerful item might be the one thing that finally breaks Ellie's curse, because the magical book hasn't even been opened yet, and everyone's already staring like their hearts are about to burst. The young man can't shake the thought that Sir Burns's genuine feelings might be so powerful they could actually spark a miracle. More than half a year after Sir Burns died, Elmiria looked totally different. Zeke had been promoted to count, taking the title from his father, Marquis Carmel, and during the ceremony, he swears he'll throw his whole heart into making the kingdom thrive, and the people, no question, place their full trust in his leadership and his. His rise pulls in even more prestige. Then Alcusia's top adventurers pack up and move to Almeria, kicking off a whole new era of growth and hope for the nation, and it all starts with their victory. Almeria's dungeon snapped back to its original state, and the mission's pesky ants were finally gone. The crew snagged an artificial magic stone, rare, crafted through secret methods, and when they finally appraised it, they realized it was fragile, mysterious, and hiding something dangerous in plain sight. So they slammed the brakes on everything, ordered absolute secrecy, with strict instructions that nobody was allowed to even know it existed. Right after everything that went down, the hero drops the bombshell. His dad bought every beast Ken, breaking their chains and ending the slavery for good. And as for Sir Burns' daughter Ellie, he steps up and fully takes charge of her safety. Then the scene hits. Ellie, finally free and smiling, throws her arms around him, clinging tight like that trust and affection they built together is stronger than ever. Now that Ellie is free, she clings to the protagonist like she's never letting go, sleeping right beside him, soaking up every quiet moment and showering him with affection. And when he steps up to talk to someone else, jealousy sparks hard in him. Their bond has only deepened, trust, protection, and real affection forged through countless hardships, until it feels unbreakable. The young priestess finally earns the title of saint. The world's greatest sacred mage officially crowns her, and it doesn't just raise her status, it supercharges her powers. Her healing magic can now erase any status anomaly in an instant, and the moment an angelic figure blesses her, you can practically feel her enlightenment click into place, signaling a whole new chapter of her journey. Clarice, now hailed as a true saint, gears up for her first big mission with this new power, tearing Ellie's curse out of her life. Beaming with confidence, she pours her sacred magic into the air, and everyone watches, hope burning in their eyes. Lioness Ellie's sharp eyes lock in. She senses something huge is about to explode onto the scene. The boy gathers Clarice and the other young woman into a tight circle, then fixes them with a determined stare and tells them, straight up, he has to clear something up, and it's too important to dodge. Both of them stare at him, hanging on every word as he takes a beat to think. Showing he's right on the edge of a life-changing choice, the boy finally blurts out his feelings with zero hesitation. Standing there in front of the two girls, he bluntly declares that Clarice is the one who matters most, then lays it all on the line, saying he loves her and wants to marry her one day. Clarice freezes, stunned, and listens in silence, completely shaken by how real and heartfelt his words are. Clarice gets completely overwhelmed by his words, covering her face as tears spill out and a blush surges across her cheeks, pure happiness and shock hitting at the same time. Meanwhile, that other girl keeps her calm, steady stare and drops the truth. She already knew exactly how he felt, just like you told me would happen, and the moment wraps up with a quiet, respectful acceptance. The short-haired girl totally blindsides the room. She blurts out, loud and buzzing with excitement, that she's going to be the protagonist's concubine, even though she doesn't fully get what that actually means. Confusion crashes over the room. Clarice and the protagonist lock eyes in total disbelief. Then the boy, with a straight-up innocent grin, blurts out what a concubine is, leaving everyone absolutely stunned at how clueless he is. The girl erupts with joy right after her daring declaration, bouncing like crazy when she hears the protagonist will think about it. And even with his vague reply, she reads it as a win, while the boy, clutching a nervous smile, tries to shake the tension out of the air. In the end, she finally looks satisfied, convinced the outcome was good enough and that everything turned out the way it should. The young man strides in, confident and ready, and tells everyone goodbye. He promises he'll pass the exam and make them proud, while his friends and family beam and swear they'll join him there in just 3 years. Right before he leaves, Mars hands him a sword as a gift, and it hits him hard. He's moved to the core and grateful beyond words. The boy practically bursts out the door, buzzing with excitement to sit for the admission exam at Rister National Academy. Mars tells Ellie and Clarice are lining up to go there too, 3 years from now, while Ellie admits she never learned how to read or write. Clarice jumps in as the teacher and starts showing him the ropes with pure, unstoppable excitement. 3 years later, the two grown youths stand across from each other in front of the house, their eyes locked with pure determination as they gear up for a training duel, and behind them, 2 kids can't look away. As their eyes locked, the fighters silently confessed respect and trust without saying a word. During the duel, the girl charges ahead with jaw-dropping speed, all because of her advantage, thanks to the wind boots gear that lets him explode into the air with lightning-fast bursts. She rockets forward with pure agility, shocking her opponent. Then the boy digs in hard, bracing for what's coming next as Both lock in with total focus and razor-sharp skill, then the tension explodes when the boy tosses the sword aside and charges into hand-to-hand combat. They both snap into fighting stances at once, brimming with confidence, ready to collide. Blows fly back and forth at a brutal pace, slick kicks and sharp punches snapping through the air, showing off just how insanely skilled both fighters are. The clash stays brutal, both fighters lock in with razor focus, trading blocks and deadly counters like clockwork, until a decisive moment hits. The boy sprints in, slams onto his opponent, and snatches her before her kick can land. Holding the whole fight in his grip mid-battle. The battle surges to a whole new level when something nobody saw coming flips everything. The girl slips in the moment everything else falls into chaos. It lunges from behind, snaps a perfectly aimed strike into him, and drops him hard to the ground. Pinning him to the ground and crushing the fight with jaw-dropping skill, and then the training was finally over. Clara snaps everyone back to reality, tomorrow starts early, and Mars steps in to admit Ellie's hand-to-hand skills are straight-up superior, which makes Ellie beam like she just won. Then the 3 status sheets hit the table and boom, they lay out everyone's progress and specialties, showing the crew's perfect mix of brute strength, magic, and killer agility. The 3 gear up to leave for the Rister National Academy exam, when they're hit with cheers to keep going and a sharp warning not to draw attention, because their talent could light a target on them fast. With grit blazing in their eyes, they answer loud and sure, and kick off their adventure with rock-solid, unshakable steps. The crew finally reaches the massive entrance of Rister National Academy, and bam, there's a whole sea of candidates waiting for them, far more than they expected. Surprise hits, nerves spike, and they instantly feel the brutal challenge staring them in the face. Candidates are told to snap into a line and clutch the entrance fee coin in their right hand. No hesitation, just determination, the whole room charged with focus. The protagonist flashes back to his past life failure, but this time confidence surges through him. He's going to clear the first try. Mars gets hit with the shock of his life. He failed the exam. He can barely process it, watching all his hard work and grit collapse in front of that totally unexpected result, while Ellie and Clara stand by as he heads toward. At the academy gate, he clenches his resolve and marches straight toward the exam, hands over the gold coin, gets the instructions, and strides in with total confidence to take his test. Still clueless about the shock waiting for him, he watches the magical exam begin, and the examiners are stunned when Ellie and Claris's talent lights the room. Their stats blow everyone away, so incredible it feels like they're beyond expectations, and with those unreal skills grabbing every eye, Mars just hangs back in the shadows, eclipsed by their brilliance. It's Mars's turn for evaluation. Ellie and Claris get marched inside after passing, while Mars strides in like he owns the place until he spots something that doesn't add up. The examiners react like it's nothing, no shock, no eyebrow raise, while their blank faces slam the mood compared to the earlier hype, and it leaves Mars staring at the outcome, suspicious and totally confused. When Mars snatches his result, his stomach drops, fail is stamped in bold on the paper, and shock slams him in the chest as he stares at the others crumpled on the ground, defeated, leaving him scrambling to figure out what went wrong. He slips up with a mistake, and now the bracelet's hidden his powers so well that the report's X marks on those number columns only crushes any lingering doubt deeper than ever. Confused, he can't stop wondering if they judged him differently than the rest of the candidates. Mars starts freaking out as he tries to decode his evaluation results, then spirals into what the symbols even mean. Does that O mean 0, not a real pass, and what the hell does the X stand for out of scale? He even worries he got disqualified for crushing the normal attribute limits, but when he spots Ellie's stats blasting with 3-digit numbers and still not failing, his confusion explodes even more until all he can think is, what kind of ridiculous exam is this? Before he can even move, someone calls out his name, and boom, Mars reunites with Sasha and Silas straight from his past. Silas is already fuming, barking that the person he personally vouched for to pass the exam can't possibly fail, and he rages that Mars hasn't trained for 3 whole years, then lets loose with pure, furious indignation. Mars snaps back right away, swearing he's not slacking or holding back. He's dead set on proving his worth. Silas erupts in rage when he sees Mars fail, then vows to settle it with force, because in his eyes, someone of his caliber doesn't fail. Sasha slams the brakes on him and demands Mars's evaluation sheet. When she crunches the numbers, her face drops, because every single one of Mars's stats lands under 10, and that's straight up impossible for someone built like him. The shock hits them both, her and Silas. Silas snaps that maybe Mars got twisted by darkness just to explain those terrible results, and the words leave him jittery. Mars erupts in denial, totally flustered, unsure why everything turned out so badly. Sasha even thinks something must have gone wrong, but Mars insists hard that he did nothing wrong. The tension starts to melt the second Ellie and Claris burst in, waving and yelling for Mars. Like this is the moment everything shifts. Then Mars finally reunites with Claris and Sasha right after the exam. Claris can't believe how much Mars has grown, and Sasha jumps in like, "Yep, I'm staff at the same school now." Then she drops the truth. Silas didn't lose it because he was surprised by Mars' failure. He was already on the team before they even arrived. The tension finally loosens, and suddenly it feels like a real reunion. Everyone clocks each other, recognizes each other, and the air warms up. Sasha gets grilled by her teacher about what she knows of the new kids. She says she knows Claris, but then admits the rest are brand new to her. Right after the exam, the teacher announces, "Ellie's officially in Class S," and then points out that Claris could land in either Class S or Class A, proof of just how insanely talented both girls are. While they talk, the teachers finally crack the truth. Ellie isn't just someone, she's born from a noble line, next in line to lead the ducal Celians family. And even if she looks human, their assessment uncovers the shock. "Ellie is a beast, man." Mars tells Ellie and Claris, "You two helped me before," and the whole moment clicks into place. And then one of the teachers spots Sasha, Misha's mom, like the same Sasha that Claris and Mars had been writing letters to earlier. Ellie's true identity and her growing prestige start stunning everyone in the room. Teachers and examiners freeze in shock when Ellie drops her bombshell. She's engaged to Mars, and then Claris steps up and confirms she's made the same promise to that young man too. The room erupts with confusion because nobody saw this coming, and suddenly the bonds between them feel way more intense than anyone imagined. Mars fires off questions about his exam results, yet the answer doesn't come until later. Ellie draws a hard line. She won't step foot in that school unless he passes, while Claris snaps back that she'll pull out too, because without him she sees no point in staying. Even though the examiner was moved by what they felt, he still told them to enroll no matter what happened, because he refused to let the exam's hard-earned merit go to waste. Mars realizes he bombed the aptitude test, but he refuses to let it crush him. He's told he can still take the practical exam. Even though it's brutally hard, if he somehow clears it, he'll still be shoved straight into the lowest class. Determined, Mars grabs the chance with both hands, nodding fast and sprinting ahead to prove, once and for all, that he's got what it takes. Claris and Ellie are told to slip into the school, while Mars gets a clear instruction to show up at the main gate the next day at noon. Sasha and Silas step up and take full responsibility for the organization. After that, Claris and Ellie finally talk, and Ellie tells her straight up, if she can't trust Mars yet, she can head back to the inn with him, because Ellie clearly believes in him enough to stand by him. Claris and Ellie throw all their trust at Mars, convinced he's about to pull it off. With the two backing him up, Mars lifts his chin, shoots a confident grin, and vows he's going to smash through this challenge and come out on top. The candidates pack into a massive grand arena, ready for what's coming next fast. The selection process is in full swing and right before everyone. The official kicks off the briefing for the practical exam, and Mars, steady as stone among the crowd, starts prepping to take on this brutal new challenge. The candidates get handed instructions: pick your weapon from what's available, get ready, and face a live combat simulation against the team. After he picked his weapon, Mars plants himself with iron determination, ready to square off against one of the evaluators, unless it's the single one everyone fears most. As the candidates line up to face the evaluators, Mars snags Silas's attention. Silas gets directly challenged by someone who wants a personal showdown, and he's determined to prove that Mars didn't just sit back and get complacent. Under the crushing pressure of everyone watching and the sharp comments flying around him, Mars nervously braces himself, but he accepts the confrontation without backing down. The practical exam kicks off, and before anyone can breathe, the evaluators drop candidates left and right. Then Sasha steps in, moving like a blade, swift and perfectly controlled, and wipes out several participants with ease. Other instructors, mask on, ponytail swinging, all of them throwing down with terrifying power, crush their way through the trials and leave the field littered with fallen candidates. Mars steps up for his showdown, right in front of the terrifying instructor, Silas. He tries to smooth things over and begs for leniency, but Silas drops the bomb. He's been waiting, grinning, for this exact moment. The duel kicks off the moment the evaluator barks the order. Mars and Silas lock into a brutal confrontation right from the start. They both launch in full force, trading brutal, bone-jarring hits back and forth. Swords slam and ring through the arena, and you can tell both of them mean business. No mercy, no holding back. Mars is shoved back as Silas's raw, overwhelming power smashes through him. No matter how hard he tries, he can barely hold off the next wave of attacks. Once he realized just how deadly his opponent was, the clash of fists hit him like a freight train. this fight was pure intensity, powered by brutal force. Silas lands a devastating punch that leaves the whole moment in ruins. That blast hurls Mars flying through the air, and the young man can't fight it. He crumples to the ground and passes out. It makes the power gap crystal clear. Mars gets brutally slammed into the wall, and everyone in the arena freezes in pure disbelief at how unstoppable the opponent is. The hit is so savage that the whole place goes dead silent. Even with injuries and a brutal disadvantage, Mars shocks everyone by getting back up again and again. His opponent clocks the kid's grit instantly, and you can practically see the excitement flare up at the sheer audacity of it all. The brawl keeps raging and the pressure only keeps climbing. Mars gets yanked up and slammed into the ground with brutal force, but his stare stays locked on the prize. While the instructor is already sure he'll win, Mars digs in with every ounce of strength, terrified of what happens if he slips up right now, right at the exact moment the fight hits its breaking point. A woman explodes into the fight with insane speed, smashing in with one brutal strike, and just like that, both fighters crash to the ground mid-battle. Shock flashes across their faces as she locks eyes and stares straight ahead, like she can't look away, proving the whole situation has spiraled way past control. After the brawl gets cut off, instructor Lauren grills Sasha, but she shuts him down fast, insisting he only stepped in to dodge humiliation. With the tension exploding, she talks everyone down and stops the duel, while Mars, opponent stunned, starts to realize the young man's real identity. Then everyone spots Mars in action and cheers him for an unforgettable performance. Mars finally gets the call. He's approved in the practical exam, and relief crashes over him as raw emotion pours out. He bursts out with thanks, a determined grin spreading across his face as he celebrates his hard-earned win. Right after the exam, Mars runs into Clarice and Ellie, and they look worried, but he flashes a confident smile and tells them he sailed through it with zero trouble. Clarice and Ellie light up, cheering for Mars as he gets the approval. Then the three of them erupt into an animated high five, celebrating like they just won everything. They decide to head out together to celebrate, especially with Meat, because that shared spark of happiness is burning bright, all smiles and pure joy. As Mars, Clarice, and Ellie stride through the city. Ever since they stormed out of the school, they felt it. Someone had been watching them the whole time. Mars snaps into a protective stance and demands they stick right beside him. In a dim alleyway, a brutal surprise ambush erupts out of nowhere, smashing into everyone's plans and leaving them completely blindsided right after that attack. Mars, Clarice, and Ellie get yanked out of nowhere and dumped in a strange new place. Then, from the roof above, a girl stares down at them, and the moment Mars clocks her, his face lights up with instant recognition. It's Misha, someone pulled straight from the past, and she greets them like it's no big deal, casually admitting it's been way too long since they last saw each other. While they ate, Misha blurted out an apology for not coming sooner. She'd seen everyone at school, but her curiosity was only pointed at Ellie. Standing right beside Mars, the girl stays cool and collected. Then, when she's urged to introduce herself, she simply says her full name, Ellie Leo. The tension finally eases, and the whole vibe shifts into something warmer between them, and right as their talk kicks off. Ellie drops a bombshell. She announces she's engaged to Mars, and Misha practically chokes, spitting her drink in pure shock. Right after that bombshell, Clarice lets it slip that she's engaged to him too, and it absolutely wrecks Misha with shock. To cut through the tension, Mars blurts out a question, "So, what classes are you all in?" and tries to drag the conversation somewhere else. Mid-conversation, Mars blurts that he's in Class E, and Misha's jaw drops. Then Clarice hits back with the shocker. She and Ellie are in Class S. Misha can't believe it. How is Mars, the supposedly best, stuck in a lower class, and this whole situation feels downright bizarre. And just like that, everyone breaks into laughter and ends the moment with a soft, easy smile. Mars bursts into the student dormitory and heads straight for E200. He steps in and immediately clocks how tight the room is, cramped and shared by 3 people. Unlike the other classes that shared rooms with 2 students, he stared with bitter resignation at how Class E got treated so differently. At school, your class dictates everything, from your room size to what you eat and even which classes you take, and right now Mars, stuck in the lowest rank, Class E, can't help but admit he's at the bottom. But despite everything, he refuses to quit, so he steals his nerve and decides to climb the ranks as fast as he humanly can. Mars bursts into the room and finds his roommates waiting. John, loud and fearless in Class E, and Carl, quiet and guarded, stark opposites from the start. After the introductions, Mars lights up with excitement to team up with them, and John shoots off an irreverent comment about Carl's bulky, veteran-looking build, assuming he'd done this a long time. Before the entrance ceremony even starts, John suggests they explore the school together, and Carl shoots back with a burst of excitement. Mars gives a soft smile and tells him he's already got another appointment. Right after he shows up at another place, he blurts out a rushed apology for being late. Mars shows up and finds Clarice, Ellie, and Misha waiting. Clarice is practically buzzing over that brand new uniform and asks how he's doing, and Mars just lights up, saying it fits her perfectly and that she looks adorably cute. Clarice, Ellie, and Misha demand compliments from Mars, and before they even finish talking, Mars showers them back with non-stop affection. He says the uniform was made for Ellie, perfectly matching her vibe, then turns to Misha and praises her for looking way more mature now. The three girls beam with pure joy as the sincere compliments hit them. At the entrance ceremony, an elf strides up as the main speaker, introduces herself with fire, welcomes the new students, and makes it crystal clear that their future is the Academy's future. While everyone leans in and listens, Mars can't believe it. She's over 200 years old, just like elves do, and during her speech an elf fires up the students. "I'll never quit. I'm going to treasure every single moment I live at the Academy like it's pure gold." Mars' attentive suddenly locks up, feeling like someone is watching him from the shadows, and meanwhile, the ceremony rockets forward to the next beat. The new student representative steps up and delivers their speech. The new student rep strides up to the stage and launches into her speech with zero fear, saying she's honored to kick off a whole new chapter at such an amazing school, while Mars watches her like a hawk and realizes, with a jolt, that she's the top-ranked freshman in the entire year. As Karen Lionel keeps her inspiring speech going, Mars snaps open his appraisal ability and scans her stats, high marks across the board, especially magical power. Then he clocks a rare skill, Alluring Eyes. He's blown away, labels her a specialized magic user, but can't stop wondering what that Alluring Eyes actually does. While Karen is mid-speech, Mars fires off his appraisal ability, dissecting her skills on the spot, yet Karen clocks what he's doing. Staring him down with pure intensity, Mars tells himself he's been fully exposed, caught right in the middle of that tense, razor-thin moment. The entrance ceremony wraps up clean and quiet. Karen closes it out with a bold promise that she'll have a full, productive school life from day one. In the very first class, students get hit with a shocking truth. Even the people who fight up close still have to master magic. The teacher lays it out: most magic users learn 2 forms of power, but you can pick just one and go all in. From that moment on, Mars clamped down on his focus and threw himself headfirst into his studies. Right after the theory lesson, the teacher blows the whistle and orders everyone to pair up for martial arts class. Gon quickly shoves himself into Carl's side, and suddenly Mars is left standing there all alone. Mars tries to find a partner, but every single classmate shuts him down or flat out rejects him. Mars ends up totally alone after every classmate rejects him when they form pairs, and he can't stop wondering if it's because his ranking is so low. No choice, he tells the instructor he's got no partner, and the teacher immediately decides it's just him and the instructor, one-on-one practice. Right then, someone shows up out of nowhere, and with perfect timing they snag his attention. Professor Wafer, big, built, and downright intimidating, shows up out of nowhere and demands Mars train with his sword, and Mars just stares like, "Wait again." The instructor lunges in to stop him, snapping that the Wafer is from another class, but before she can finish, it's already too late. Mars panics and bolts. The professor just watches, silently sending him good luck, while Wafer digs in with hardcore training and a no-nonsense proposal. Yet even with fear creeping up, Mars still has to face the towering Mr. Wafer, who steps up with a promise to hammer him with intense training. Then when Mars doesn't back down, he gathers his courage and tells Wafer there's something he wants to learn, and Wafer throws down his demand. Mars has to beat him in a sword duel. No hesitation, Mars commits to it on the spot, locked in with pure determination, and when it's over, Wafer can't hide his satisfaction, smiling like he knew all along and had been watching Mars with interest even before. Mars squares off against Mr. Wafer in a brutal sword duel. He storms forward with non-stop swings, but the instructor parries every single strike like it's nothing. Even when the opponent crushes him with pure overwhelming power, Mars digs in his heels, refuses to back off, and fights on with unstoppable courage and grit. Even under the crushing force of those overwhelming wafers, Mars finally sees the truth. His opponent isn't just brutal, he's deadly precise, and technique is the real weapon behind every attack. With pure grit, he keeps taking the hits, refusing to back up an inch, locking eyes with that win no matter what fire burning in his soul. In the middle of that brutal duel, Wafer's mind snaps back to Glenn, pushing Mars to shove his limits aside with pure, unshakable determination. That memory hits Mars and he hesitates for a split second, then the reprimand comes fast. He's told to lock in and stay focused on the fight. Mars keeps charging into battle with pure grit, locking into duel after duel against Wafer without backing down. Even when he doesn't win, he won't stop. He keeps throwing down again and again, proving his iron will and pushing his growth forward nonstop. Even after getting completely wiped out by a Wafer, Mars doesn't sulk. He bows with gratitude, praises the opponent for holding back on the final hit, and clings to every lesson like fuel, meeting the whole world with an optimistic smile. After that brutal fight, Mars won real respect from everyone around him, because no matter how many times he got knocked down, he kept forcing himself back up, straight defiant grit that changed the room. The same people who once dodged him started seeing his real power and even reached out, asking to be his friends. Even though he's still impressed, Wafer just flashes a quiet smile as he watches everything unfold, because the kid everyone used to dodge has finally proven himself with courage and stubborn perseverance, and now the crowd's all over him, surrounded by grinning classmates who lift him into the spotlight and the popularity that once felt impossible.